Cool, cool.
Well, thank you, man. First, I wanted to say I really appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to talk to you, man. I had I seen you a long time ago, a few years ago. I was working with my friend. I'm an electrical engineer, and he was like, he's like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "It's Eric Dubay, man. I'm watching Eric." I said, "I'm gonna talk to him one day. I'm gonna do everything I can." He's like, "No, you're not, man. Just stop."
Oh, cool. Well, we
It's
made that
awesome, man. So
happen.
thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, man.
Right on. No, I didn't even have any idea, you'd sent that out into the universe. Me,
Oh
myself,
yeah.
I'd kind of had the same idea ever since I'd seen your channel and we'd interacted a bit. I thought, this
Oh yeah.
guy's
Yeah.
on my wavelength, it'd be cool to talk
Oh,
to him
definitely.
sometime. So yeah.
Definitely, man. Definitely. It was weird because when I first I was trying to find you, and I think it was when YouTube was they were taking you down. And it was when Eddie Bravo, he's like, "Look, man, just look up Eric. If you don't understand what's going on, just look up Eric Dubé." And I kept typing it in. I'm like, I can't find him. I'm like, I'm looking for him. And it was right when I think it might have been your third that they took down. And I was like, I can't. And it brought me up to, a couple of those other clowns, and they were trying to go through your book. And I was like, okay, what is this guy talking about? And he's going through and he's, you're naming some of the proofs in your book. And he's like, now, does that sound right? And then he just goes to the next proof. I'm like, he's not even debunking it. He's not even answering it. And I was like, this isn't Eric. So I was looking for you for the longest time. Then I started Googling, and then I actually found some of your other links and stuff. But I guess that's the first thing people do is they go to like YouTube for, pretty much everything. And if you're not there right away, it's like, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I can't find him. I guess he doesn't exist anymore or something.
I wonder about that
But
because it was right after I got that big plug from Eddie Bravo that I think you're right. It was the third time I got banned from YouTube was shortly after that. And I thought the same thing. It was, coincidental timing that I was probably just about to get a spike in traffic and then they shut me down then. And you're right. People go to
yeah,
YouTube, they search Eric Dubay, and if you don't have a channel with your content there, then all the first
yeah,
stuff that comes up is debunking Dubay and
right,
anti-flat Earth propaganda from the big channels
yeah,
because of the way the YouTube algorithm works. It promotes what they consider to be official channels first, so channels that
yep,
are, um, you know, tote the party line, blue check mark, so to speak, and haven't been
yeah.
flagged for talking about subjects like we do, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm getting messages from YouTube now where they're like, "We removed your content," and I'm looking at the date and I'm like, "This was a year ago," and they've just this past couple weeks they've been in there pulling this, pulling that down. I'm like, okay, this is stuff I released a year ago, and now they're just nagging and picking and everything. And that was my issue. There was a few, some of the guys that I've been just learning from in general. I don't know if they know how censored that you are online. I think I did a video, might have been a few, maybe a couple, maybe a year. I think it was a year back, and I was typing your name in on live to show some of the guys on my channel that it wasn't bringing you up unless I was subscribed directly to you. But
Hmm,
you actually have to like go into your channel and find it because it's like they're trying to hide you as much as they can. It's really difficult, even though it should be a lot easier. But once everyone is like subscribed to you, your channel comes up really quickly. But if you kind of search it without the subscription, it's really hard to find at first. You really got to scroll through and see if you can. And all that shadow banning crap is completely outrageous. And so it winds me up anytime people are like, "Oh, Eric Dubé's still online." I'm like, Eric Dubé's made so many different channels and stuff, and it's like other people, it's like, they I guess they're not looking or paying enough attention or something, which is
exactly.
common,
It's like damned if you
where
do, damned if you don't. If I'm not
yeah,
online, nobody's ever gonna find me. And when I am
yeah,
online, they're like, if this guy's information was true, he'd be banned by now. It's like, I
Right.
have over
Yeah.
and over and over again. And just the fact that I keep coming back and they're like, hey, he's back. That must mean he's not genuine. It's like, oh, so to be
Right.
genuine, I
Right.
just have to
Right.
throw my
Yeah.
hands up, be banned, be canceled, and just be like, oh, I tried. Okay. Ooh, that's what a hero is nowadays. Like,
Oh,
that's
it's
good act. That's how
amazing.
good activism is. Yeah. Right.
Oh,
And
it's
yeah, you're talking
amazing,
about
man.
you can only find me if you're subscribed. Another thing is if you can stay subscribed. I get people
Yeah.
like dozens a day telling me I've been unsubscribed for the fourth
Yeah.
time, the fifth time. They just get
Yep.
unsubscribed from my channel randomly, and then when they think that I haven't posted a video for a long time, they check back and they're like, Eric's still here. Oh, he's posted like 4 videos. I'm
Right.
unsubscribed. What? So yeah,
Hmm.
they got a bunch of these underhanded tactics. They remove likes. They've removed views. They've removed so many
Yeah.
views that I had a video go into the negatives before. So
Really?
yeah, that was back in like 2018. I have a video showing screenshots of it and everything. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, see, I knew about that. I was telling some like a lot of other other people I'm subscribed to. I was telling them, I was like, I'm unsubscribed from you. And I every day they kept just unsubscribing me, but also the like thing. That was the first time that happened to me where I'd put a thumbs up on it and I'd refresh the page, and the next thing I know is
Thumbs gone.
it's yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, all of those tactics should kind of set alarm bells off in people's heads, but I've seen.
Removing
I think it is for
comments.
the most
They
part.
remove
But
comments all the time. Yeah.
right, right, the comments. Yeah, yeah. I found out on mine.
Yeah.
A lot of people got angry just on my channel, and my channel's not that big at all. And they're just they're removing people on there like, why do you keep deleting my comments? I'm like, I'm not deleting your comments, man. I'm like, you should know by now what's happening here. But it's
Right.
like I said, it's the most popular. And I almost think it's the interface for YouTube as well, where it's a really easy to use interface, and everything is kind of right there for you. And I noticed some of the other networks, like BitChute and other, the interface really isn't as good,
Yeah.
And if they would put more money, I guess, into the interface, I think, user experience, that would
Right.
probably help a lot of people. But after using something for so long, everybody's just used to going to YouTube. But it's a
Right.
cesspool on there, man. I'm backing up all my stuff just on other networks now, and I just have it all going there because
Yeah.
I can't even really go live that much without getting another strike all of a
Hmm.
sudden for saying
Right.
something.
Yeah,
They're
it's
even
hard
going
to.
back to stuff I did a year ago. So
Right, they go back. They'll make new rules, and then they'll go back right through your catalog. And if your old videos don't cater to their new rules, then you'll get strikes or at least get them taken down.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, 100%. It's almost no way to win, and really a lot of it is discrimination. And I was
Mm.
telling people that on my network because I'm kind of like on the DC area in America and stuff, and there's a lot of at will states here where people can fire you at will for things. And I was really telling people like it's fine if somebody wants to fire you or kick you off of a network, but when they're singling you out or discriminating against you, that's actually a violation.
Right.
It's one thing if they say, "Hey, I'm going to do this to you." That's one thing, but whenever it's like, "I'm going to let other people stay here," and you're doing the same thing as them, but I'm going to kick you off. That's literally, textbook definition, of what we've seen even the past couple of years. It's the very definition of discrimination and stuff, and they're letting a lot of the fake shills, Hollywood shills, millions of subscribers, come on here and talking about America, and I'm like, some of these guys aren't even in America, and they have no clue. They've never been in America other than just to visit for a second, so they have no idea what they're even talking about. And it's
Mm.
crazy how get so much clout, for that type of stuff. Those like Hollywood guys, like I'm not even mentioning them, but just they're around left and right dividers. I've done some exposing videos on them, and I've gotten their fans all angry. So why are you talking mean about my guy? I'm like, you never met this guy. I'm like, he's a Hollywood puppet, and he's creating division and hatred. It's so bad here in America that you really can't go around anywhere and tell people that you're either like a Republican or a Democrat. If you do, they will discriminate against you anywhere. You know, they'll hold you accountable for it for forever until you come to them and say, "Never mind, I'm the same as you." Does that make you feel better? You know, you almost have to play a mind game on them, especially at jobs. Just to keep from getting discriminated against because of you know, the campaign with the last president here on the news every day and all this nonsense. It's just kind of polarized this place,
Mm,
you know. But
hmm.
is it kind of like that, like where you are in general? I was interested in asking you about like you, like your area. Is it different there altogether?
As they say over here, same, but different.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I
All right.
mean, it's politics, I think, is pretty much the same all over, but with different flavors. And
Yeah.
they always update the rhetoric and based on the society.
Hmm.
And so, no, I mean, it's a lot of the same problems and issues that they're tackling in politics over here that they are over there. Party politics and bipartisan and
Hmm.
splitting the people. Here they even do the colors. It's yellow and red, and well, I guess over there it's red and blue, right?
Yeah,
Over
red
here,
and blue.
over
Yeah.
here it's red and yellow. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's
it's very
outrageous.
groupthink oriented. I
Yeah.
find all of politics to be like a soap opera that they pretend is real, and then you get sucked into it and you vote for who you want to be on the next season. And it was like
Yeah.
the Bachelor, those kind of
Yeah.
reality shows before reality shows. The political sphere was that for people. And it really is like a popularity contest similar to Hollywood, like you were saying. It's like these people gain so much credibility out of
Yeah.
nowhere. It's like, why?
Hmm.
Just because you see their face all the time, basically? It's like if your face is
Right.
plastered on TV enough or on enough
Right.
billboards, that somewhere in the reptile brain or something, it triggers something where we're like, yeah, I like this guy. He's my guy. I see him all the
Yeah.
time. He's my buddy. Like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I noticed that with, you know, the whole Trump thing and wrestling, you know, the WWE thing when he was going out there. Like my dad was like heavy into WWE. So as I was growing up over the years, I haven't seen it since like Hollywood Hogan and all of them. So I'm from like the 90s era
mm,
of that. And you know, but my dad, he kind of, you know, and when you know, the president had went on there, he was doing all this stuff, you know, and everybody kind of liked him back then as some kind of rebel, and it was so weird just to see it, you know. But you know, and recently I looked over just some of the clips from some
me
of
too.
these past presidents, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Dude, were these guys this, like, were they really this big of clowns?" You know, because when I was younger, I didn't pay much attention when I was like 11 and 10, and I had no idea that there was that much. I mean, it was a full-on comedy show, you know,
Hmm.
even you know, from you know, Bush all the way up. It was just comedy shows of just nonsense. And I'm like, I must have missed all this. You know, the only thing that I seen that I really paid attention to when I was younger was some guy throwing his shoe at Bush while he's having his speech up there on the podium. And I'm like, dude, this is a clown shit. He was dodging it. But I mean, most of his stuff was worse than that. And I'm like, man, how did people even come close to taking this guy serious? And I think then there was people who knew then, you know, and like you mentioned, even David and them, they knew then the clown show that was happening. It's weird after you wake up and you learn the reality of the world. It's like I used to be part of that type of system, you know, but
Mm.
I was never married to it. I never like held it in high esteem, you know. If it crumbled, it crumbled. You know, it was kind of the thing with flat Earth. It was like, you know, I heard a lot of people just say, hey, they're lying. Hey, these pictures are fake. But I didn't know NASA actually admitted that they're fake. I'm like, okay, this is a little bit different now. It's like, you know, and then all of a sudden you start realizing that you're the one defending them. They're telling you the truth themselves. They're not even defending themselves. They're like, oh yeah, they're fake. Yeah, they're this, they're that. And you know, and the other people are the ones like, no, what do you don't believe in the moon missions and all this nonsense. And
Hmm.
so I kind of watch that for comedy now. I've been watching a whole bunch of space movies and stuff, and people going back in time because they circle a planet for a second, and now they're young, they're younger than their kids.
Like
I'm like,
Superman
God,
saved the world that way in that movie, right? Or saved Lois Lane by
yeah,
going back in
yeah,
time, spinning the world backwards. Yeah, you change time
insane.
by.
That's insane. And I realized they were teaching that in my school, so I got really angry because I could never figure it out. I was like, okay, so what you're saying is we're looking in the past when we look up there. I'm like, so how do we make this relative to? Yeah, I'm up here trying to like write it down on paper, and I'm angry with my teachers. Like this, I mean, am I too stupid to learn this? And then I realize what it really is. It's meant to make you feel like you're just completely stupid. Like, yeah, you can never
Mm.
grasp the vastness of the space time continual, and it's like this is a concept. This is just a thought experiment in the end of all of it. It's just this is what I think, you know what I mean? And I
Right.
mean, it was an eye-opening theme. And I think I was making one of my friends mad when I was like learning all this, because I was talking to him and he's like, man, if you talk about Eric one more time, I'm like, no, you need to see this. And he's just like, look, man, look, you got to stop going down these rabbit holes. I'm like, it's not, dude. This is serious. You got to pay attention to it. And I think I actually, I got to him, and I'm happy I did, because throughout the lockdowns and stuff that they were doing here, um, it was really weird, because he was calling me and he was asking me, hey, what's going on with this? And he kept just stuff that's uncharacteristically, just completely out of his norm. And
Mm.
he's like, is this what's going on here? What's going on with the queen? What's going on there? And I'm like, you're asking me all these questions. Now, before that, he wasn't interested in any of it. He was
Hmm.
hooked on to the politics. And after I sat with him for a few months before he had left, he just started asking me everything now. Now he's, so he was really careful about what he did, but I don't know how it turned out for him in general in the, during the shutdowns. I think he was kind of scared that he was going to lose his job. And he
Hmm.
was talking about people are forcing him to do different things. And I'm like, look, dude, nobody's going to force you. I'm like, in the end, it's you. It's like you've been told, and it's up to you if you're going to do this, And he got mad with me, of course, as
Hmm.
everybody does, So no, they forced me. So they're going to. I'm like, then lose your job. I was like, I have lawyers that I can connect you with. I offered them to pay, and come to find out, some people actually decided to be laid off, and they were paid for being laid off, and then they
Mm.
came back to their job. So he's calling me and he's pissed. He's like, dude, they didn't even fire him. They just laid him off. So he didn't have to do anything. And then he came back to the job and they paid him too. He's like, what am I doing here? I was like, I told you not to just say no.
Mm.
No is like the strongest word. But
Right.
I don't know how it turned out for him after that. But I think he learned to say no more after all that. So,
Right.
I'm happy I kind of rubbed off on him a little bit. I don't know if he's into the flat earth yet. I've tried to get him there, but he knows some weird stuff going on, especially with Shatner and the rest of them, 90 years old going up. And it's just, he didn't buy it for a minute. He used to get really angry
Okay.
with me, say Elon was like a genius. And I was just like, nah, no, not at all. Not at all, man. But
Oh,
Eric, I
that's
wanted to ask you. I know I'm talking so much, man. I'm like, okay, dude, I got so much to talk to Eric about. I wanted to ask you. I had a couple questions. You've done videos on some of this, but I did have a couple flat Earth questions, but I really wanted to talk about some other things, because you have like an extensive library of information out there, especially on a lot of the truth topics and the political truth topics. And most of it's there. So it's kind of like if I ask you those questions, it's like you could just put your videos on play and we not even do the interview. So I just wanted to ask, like, if you want to like move to a different country, I know this is worldwide right now, but for anybody that is interested in moving, like leaving the country if they feel like they want to, I know, like, real quick, just to explain what I mean, everything is changing. So as you know, so if they lock someone down here, that's going to be at your doorstep really quickly. So it's like when one thing starts getting like implemented somewhere, around, it's going to spread, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Almost like, communism. So
Mm.
it's like there's nowhere to run from it. So I don't mean in the sense of running. Like people need to actually make a difference themselves and stop waiting for somebody to come in and save them. But if you want to move to a different place, what would be one of the main things, like you, for instance, what were you looking for when you wanted to move? Just
Mm.
like key points, anything off the top.
Yeah. I mean, for me, when I moved to Thailand or got originally interested in it was because I had a Thai best friend from childhood, and I came here on vacation with him for a month and loved it, and decided I wanted to move here and teach English after I graduated college. And so that's what I did. And I really loved the culture, the food, the weather, the people, the pace of life, and the cost of living over here. Um, and, you know, so I moved over here, and I've really enjoyed life in Southeast Asia more so than America. And I don't have much experience anywhere else to recommend or to say.
Mhm.
But I would say certainly Southeast Asia, if people are interested in trying somewhere new. Um, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Malaysia, Thailand. This whole area is interesting and different. The Philippines, Indonesia. It would depend on what you're looking for specifically. You'd want to do your research. But yeah, I mean, they're beautiful. The nature here is beautiful. You know, the weather's nice. If you're a vegan, this is the place to be. Like, I think the tropics are you know, living outside of the tropics is very difficult for humans. Every species lives in its desired habitat, and humans seem to be like, you know, we're so capable and complex that we can
Mhm.
live anywhere. But
Mhm.
are we are we designed to be like Eskimos to live that way, or are we more designed to live in equatorial regions?
Yeah.
Having lived, I came from Maine, so having lived pretty far north and now living quite near the equator, I absolutely prefer life in here and feel like it just makes sense that we were meant to live in this kind of climate, unless you're like Wim Hof or or an Eskimo or something, but just
Yeah.
the type of person that really appreciates cold weather, and that certainly, there's beauty to winter and everything. But myself, growing up in Maine, I would experience like a winter depression every year. It's like 5 months of snow on the ground every year there, and I didn't really like it so much. The weather there really got to me. And here it's just hot and sunny pretty much every day. There really is. They say there's 3 seasons in Thailand, which are officially the hot season, the cold season, and the rain season. But Thais say unofficially that it's hot, hotter, and hottest are the three
Okay.
Thai seasons. And really, the hot season does last quite a while. The rain season's just a little, it's like monsoon torrential downpours for an hour, and then and then nothing. But the rain here is very different than back home, where it's like might rain all day if it's gonna rain. Here you'd have no idea it's gonna rain. It'll downpour for 15 minutes, and then it won't
Mhm.
rain again for a week. Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah. That's uh
yeah, it depends. I've heard good things about Europe, places in Europe and South America and other places, but I just haven't traveled there. But I do think that if you're an American that doesn't have a passport yet and has never traveled abroad to see what some other countries have to offer, I mean, absolutely, traveling abroad is, it expands your horizons. As with learning another language, they kind of go together. If you only know your own language and you've only ever lived in your own country, you're limited in the ways that you think. I would say it's like um, once you've seen how other people live, or uh, have a whole nother language set to operate under, it gives you like a space between your experience and yourself. It's like you can be a witness instead of just being like totally inculcated into your culture and your own way of thinking and your own language. Um, you're able to step aside and start comparing and contrasting things. And then through that process, I think you're able to individuate yourself more so than people that haven't yet done that. So you can see like some inherent processes in your culture that maybe had been operating subconsciously within your mind, but then once you step out of your own culture for a while, um, it becomes clear. And even just learning another language, even if you haven't gone to another culture, learning a whole new language that allows that kind of distance between yourself and your thinking, becoming the witness. And that process is actually like a yogic process, like in meditation, that they talk about becoming the witness and making a space between your thoughts and your consciousness. Because a lot of people just, they like run on NPC mode where it's like anything they think, it's like, this is me, I am my thoughts, I am my emotions, and they're just going along with that, rather than understanding that you are actually this silent witness behind the thoughts, behind the emotions. And if you can stay in that space of just witnessing and not being pulled into all the thoughts and the experiences and the sensations and the feelings, and always remain rooted in the fact that, no, I'm just witnessing all these things. Oh, there's an emotion. Oh, there's a new thought. Oh, there's a new sensation, an audio sensation, a visual sensation. And rather than getting hypnotized and entranced in everything, you remain the witness, which is what meditation and yoga and a lot of ancient spiritual practices are trying to get us to do. Even just going to another country or just learning another language, a lot of things like that create that separation in your brain and allow you to individuate and become like more yourself. I think of this great line in that movie, I Heart Huckabees. I don't know if you've heard of that one, or
Yeah,
uh,
I've heard it.
cool. It's a really interesting philosophical movie, and they have this line, and he tells them to think, "How am I not myself?" And then as he's going through his life and interacting with different people, and he happens to be a particularly narcissistic and people-pleasing individual, and so as he's trying to be more genuine, he's repeating in his head, like, how am I not myself? 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 And then in all these different situations, he's seeing how he's not being authentic to who he truly is, and his autopilot mode that he's been living his whole life really isn't himself. And he's always thought he was himself, just like we all think we're ourself. When are we not myself? How could I not be myself? But
Right.
until you go through some of these spiritual processes of individuating yourself, you may subconsciously not be being yourself.
Right.
And it's a great question to ask yourself in situations like that movie suggests, when, especially in like social situations, like, how am I being inauthentic? How am I not being myself right now? Or when you're making certain decisions, maybe you're being influenced by certain pressures that aren't truly how you would want to decide, and so maybe you're not being yourself then. And so it's a great question to come back to over and over again, that will bring you more into being your true self. And I think anything we can do to individuate ourselves and be more ourselves every day, it brings us a level of contentment, which is, I was going to say happiness. I've recently been distinguishing between the two. It's like, yeah, I think it was a Jordan Peterson interview I saw where he was distinguishing between it. It's like happiness comes and goes of its own accord. It's based on life circumstances. So we can't really strive for happiness because, it's, fleeting. But contentment is something more that we can strive for, a level of comfort or coziness in our own being or our own space in our house, those kind of things. I guess there's a Danish concept called hygge, Hyggge, that kind of speaks to this as well. And they're supposedly the happiest people on earth, the happiest country, um, when surveyed over and over again. And a lot of them relate it to this concept, where they foster contentment and comfort in their daily life more so than trying to strive for happiness. But by doing so, they achieve happiness.
Right. Right. And that's funny that you mentioned that, because that I think that's actually what's happening here, especially here. I'm only speaking mainly for America, but there's a lot of that like a propaganda going around because people have like they don't know who they are. So every commercial you see, they're like, find your true self, and everybody's now changing themselves from being this to that now. Now guys are going in the women's bathroom, women's are going in the guys' bath, and because they have no clue who they actually are, like you're saying, it's so they're manipulating them, and knowing, as far as the controllers who know that these people are, they don't know who they are. So I'm just going to use that as, to my advantage and mess stuff up, and
Hmm.
that's basically what's been going on. But
Right.
that's
And that
that's that's an excellent point.
they're making us not know things that are so easy to know, to the
Yeah.
point that we can put out an excellent documentary called What is a Woman? And the guy goes around for an hour and a half interviewing supposed top experts on gender studies who cannot answer the simplest question in the world because they've been educated stupid. In other
Yeah.
words, they've been indoctrinated.
Hmm.
All education isn't created equal. And if your
Right.
education is, mostly indoctrination and propaganda, then
Hmm.
you're not going to be any smarter than the African tribe that they interview in that movie, who
Yeah.
absolutely knows what a woman is isn't influenced at all by the gender politics, and when is asked if they would ever like to live or travel to America based on what they're learning here, none of them have any interest in leaving their little mud huts, and,
Yep.
and they're like, I'm fine right here. And,
Yeah.
um, and like what I'm saying, I think a lot of people who have grown up with the idea of America being the greatest country in the world, or with the most intelligent people in the world, that may have been at some point in history, maybe you could say that, but in 2023, if people are still hanging on to that, like the rest of the world sure isn't. Most of the rest of the world views America as, the most unintelligent people, and the freedom that America still clings on to, thinking it has, the rest of the world doesn't, agree with that either. So,
Hmm.
not to say, as you're saying, it's not like there's a lot more freedom anywhere else. The American Constitution, if it were adhered to, is wonderful. It's like the closest thing we have to a working minarchy in existence. And if we could have a small government that doesn't over time get larger and larger and larger to the point of America, the failed minarchist experiment that turned into the biggest, most powerful, most forceful government in history,
Yep.
um, just goes to show that minarchy, which is the idea of trying to have the smallest government possible, uh, doesn't work, which is why you need full anarchy or voluntarism, where all government power is limited by the people truly. Like democracy claims, to be for the people, but something that was truly for the people would be voluntarism, which is what I've
Hmm.
been preaching for a decade and plus now, and which is why I don't fall for any of the political candidates or the political parties, because all of them are committing the same, um, you know, problem for me, which is that all statist governments are stealing tax money to fund themselves. And then they're creating a monopoly of power, um, within themselves. And the people who are creating it are above the law, the people creating these laws. So you've got this privileged group of people that are stealing from everybody else and then able to create laws that they're exempt from and use a monopoly of force to enact, those dictates. And
Hmm.
how is that any different than any other, authoritarian, dictatorial form of government?
Hmm.
It's just you got this participatory act of voting every 4 years or whatever, for these candidates that come out of nowhere, most of them from secret societies and things
Yeah.
that the public has no foreknowledge of, or after knowledge of, for that fact. Most people don't look into these things, and so all you get is that you just get a new face, and like you said, whichever face has the most advertising dollars is usually the one that wins because of our reptile brains, whatever it is in humans. It's like if we see a guy on a billboard or on a commercial more than another guy, we think he's our buddy. We recognize him, and I guess he's my man. He's the one, and this whole thing of like we need someone to represent us in a government, that is already the soap opera at play that I'm telling is like, why do we need this male centric soap opera? They got the female centered ones with the romance narratives that they know is fiction on during the daytime, and then in the evening time when the guys come home, we got the breaking news, and then the guys get their soap operas, and then they then their heroes come on, um, but it's really no different. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, what we really need is voluntarism or just complete anarchy. We can we can strive towards minarchy. Like overnight anarchy isn't what I'm preaching,
Right.
but working towards a voluntaristic interaction with the government versus this increasingly um, compulsory, mandatory, like what happened in 2020. Now they're trying to get in my veins,
Hmm.
like compulsory, like to that degree.
Hmm.
It's getting ridiculous. Like I want to go away from
Yeah.
anything mandatory,
Yeah.
right? Like freedom.
Yeah.
That's the opposite of
Yeah.
freedom is when you're being forced into anything, and the biggest vehicle of force in the world today is government, and it's getting to a scary degree, especially with technology, the way they work together, things like the digital currencies, and they're trying to get rid of paper money now. That is one of the biggest freedoms that we have right now that they're about to take away, I think, is paper money.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
our ability to have private transactions and to be able to operate on a non-centralized economy, a non-approved economy. And as
Mhm.
the government overreach continues and it becomes more and more difficult to be a stand-up, legitimate citizen within the confines of this ever narrowing,
Mhm.
legal system,
Yeah.
uh, the privacy and freedom afforded to us by things like paper money is,
Mhm.
you know, really something we need to hold on to. You were saying earlier about the saying no. That's one of the big things that our power is to boycott things that we really do not want to do and be vocal about it. I just did it again this week. Another restaurant that I used to go to has a big sign out saying cashless, we're taking cashless payments only. And I was like, what? And then as we're right in line to go in, and she's like, will you be paying by credit card or cell phone or digital or whatever? And I was like, uh, no. Well, we're not going to be, you know, we're not going to do this. And they're like, well, for now, you can still pay us cash and we'll change it into digital whatever for you, so you can still eat at our restaurant now. And I was like, no, I'm not going to eat at the restaurant, but I would appreciate it if you could let your superior know that I'm a regular customer. And the waitress was really nice, and she was like, oh no, we're losing a regular customer.
Mhm.
She didn't want to lose us, and
Yeah.
so I was trying to be really polite, which is what
Right.
people should do to the messenger. Be
Yeah.
as polite as you can, but let them know that you want them to speak on your behalf to their higher up, and let them know that you're not going to do business with them anymore if they're going to
Mhm.
do this cashless only thing, because that is not the way we need the world to go. We need it to go the opposite direction towards more freedom. There should be all options available, and we should
Mhm.
have crypto available as well. We not limit it down to how you can only have digital currencies. And we should be able to bargain. That would be great to have barter available as well.
Yeah.
We want freedom. We want more, not less. We want decentralization, not centralization. So
Yeah.
anyway, I told them, I don't like the way the world is going, and I don't like how everything is becoming digital like that, and it limits our freedom and our privacy. And this is my power, is to not eat at this establishment now that you're doing this, and so but I would like to. I'd love to come back here, but you have to talk to your boss for me and that kind of thing. So and I kind of feel good about it in a sense. You go in there, I feel bad because I can't eat at the restaurant I want to eat at, and the world is becoming a way that I don't like, and so it creates this bad emotion. But then instantly I transform it by vocalizing it and using my power to not sit down and, oh, we can change the money for you. No, I'm not going to, and here's
Mhm.
why. And please let your superior know why. And then I walk away and I eat somewhere else that I can pay money, and I actually sat there feeling like, all right, I feel okay. I mean, I feel kind of like,
Mhm.
it went like that. It was like a sine
Yeah.
curve. I felt bad for a second, but I made myself feel good because I used my
Yeah.
power to enact,
Yeah.
the world was going in one direction, and I said no. I boycotted and used my power, and it's going to take more than just me at one restaurant. Of course, it takes all
Yeah.
of us using our power in these ways and spending
Yeah.
our money in the, you say yes to the right people. You say no to the places that are going the wrong direction, and you say yes to the places that are going the right direction, which is usually the grassroots, feet on the ground. Try to spend most of my money at local markets and not at chain restaurants like this.
Mhm.
So it's better anyway, and it's no real skin off my teeth if all the chain restaurants go that way. I'm still gonna I'll start eating exclusively at markets and cooking at home only. But
Mhm.
the problem is, if we allow it to get to that point, they're going to
Mhm.
start shutting down the market. They're not going to have a local market anymore. It's
Right.
only going to be supermarkets because the
Right.
government's going to say no more cash. They've done
Right.
it before with gold confiscation and silver confiscation. They'll just
Yep.
give you a deadline, and they'll say,
Mhm.
"Oh, you got any gold? You have to pay it to us, or else it's worthless. You have any paper bills? Any U.S. dollars? By January 1st, 2025, if you don't pay us your paper bills, they will become worthless from there on." And then
Mhm.
boom, the whole world. It's that easy. And
It is.
what do we have in place to stop it? Does anybody got all any
Yeah.
big ideas? Is anybody working on something for when this eventually happens? Does anybody
Right.
else not see the future like me and you see this
Right.
down the line? So what's going to happen? Are we all just going to roll over and be like, okay, well, let me get my digital wallet ready for what is it? The New World Wallet. Okay, I guess that, what is it? What's my ID? 666?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have to scan on my forehead. This is weird. They say it increases the signal when you put it next to your head. Okay.
That's true. That's true, man. I get mad with a lot of other flat earthers and truthers, as you probably know. I've spazzed on a few of them because I'm like, I really did like a lot of these guys, and they started promoting that digital currency. And me, I have never ever scanned a QR code. I refuse to. I'm never going to do that. And I did a live stream on it where I told people, I'm like, it's not a barcode. The QR code is like a code for you. It lets everybody know where you're going. It's you. It's not the product. Where you scan a barcode for a specific type of product. This is a you code where you go. You check in here. You check in there. This is what they use in China, and they've been around for a long time as well. And people are acting like they're new. And I'm like, if I'm not mistaken, those came out, I want to say in the 90s, I believe, the
Mm.
QR code type of technology and stuff. So it's just really strange. But yeah, it's not many people, I feel, that can see that once they do that, like you said, the gold confiscation in the 30s, they're going to get it all. They're not going to stop. But that's why I had released a part one for the Russian Revolution, and that's kind of what it was all based on. Was it starting somewhere, it growing, festering, and then spreading? Another government being established somewhere, and the main government not seeing what's happening or being ill advised, just deciding, okay, I'm gonna let this grow until everybody seizes the palace and takes over. And now I'm headed down here, and now I'm headed Armenia. I'm going here. I'm going there, and it just kept going and going and going and going. And by the time that anybody wanted to rise up and rebel, it's too late. And it's the same now as people trying to make the truth a career. And I'm
Mm.
like, dude, they're not going to let you do it. Once they have complete control, everything is going to be going away. There's not going to be any public or private sites like .com websites, domains. All this stuff's going to completely change, and I see it changing. And you see it obviously, but I've never actually scanned a QR code or paid any kind of that Bitcoin nonsense because that's really what it is at the end of the day. And it's weird how they're able to flip it the way they do. How they can turn it upside down and make it seem like this is private. And it's like, no, this is the most controlled or controllable type of thing. Your connection to the internet, which they control through your internet service provider. So anything crypto or digital is the most controlled, but they're playing it as if this is private. I can make sales and do things here without anybody knowing. And it's crazy
Mm.
how they're able to flip that both ways like that, even though you know what it really is, at the end of the day. But yeah, just like you said, you'll go in to buy something somewhere. I seen some dude, he started sending me, it was a guy that I had met because I meet a lot of lower, not celebrities, but a lot of musicians, especially in my field of work. And I started being friends with one of them really good, and he seemed like he was moderately awake. And there's a lot of people like this. I'm sure you've ran into it, and just talking to me occasionally, letting me know how he knows about what's going on. Next thing I see him do, he pulls out his cell phone and holds it up to a machine to scan, and I'm like, so you have your wallet on your cell phone. I'm like, you know what that is, right? And it's because they're almost partially awake. They're like diet on their awakening process where they know something's wrong, but they're still falling for some of those traps. Where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna pay with my phone. I'm like, I'm not paying with my phone. I'm not going to pay with my phone. And what I do now, I don't know if I mentioned it to you. I do a lot of bartering, a lot of like trading and stuff now. So outside of here, I work with a lot of farmers. I work with a lot of Amish communities and things. And sometimes they have like, puppies and things that they're trying to generate some money with and stuff. So I get them all set up and sell, but first you almost have to screen people now if you want to sell them a puppy and stuff, just
Mm.
because you never know what people are even doing now, especially here where this culture in America is outrageous. And it's like, you never know what some of these people even do. So it's like, I go and I meet people and stuff, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I think the puppy might be safe with you, you know what I mean? And it's a shame that you got to do that at this point, but you never know, just especially with like some of the Amish communities and stuff. Think a lot of people just try and take as much advantage of them as they can. So, but like I said, a lot of them, I see them. I'm friends with a lot of them, and some of their kids are out there. They're working in the field and stuff, and I mean, they're happy. They're doing exactly what they want to do. They're not on,
Yeah.
Fortnite
And
and
they're a
all
great
that.
example to
Yeah,
us of how we can boycott some of these
yeah,
modern, intrusions into our lifestyle that we don't
yeah,
appreciate. They've
yep,
been doing it since electricity. I mean, so what a
yeah,
great example of how, we can get, if we can get organized behind a set of principles and get communities set up in the way that they have, then, these dictates from centralized governments from above that are trying to create the societies that they want aren't going to
yeah,
be successful as long as we can do something like the Amish are doing. So
yeah,
that's interesting. I didn't realize that you actually had a association with the Amish. So your
yeah.
name is the Amish Space Station. I was curious how did you come up with that name?
I actually it was right when I was just it was a few years ago, but I was in like neck deep doing research like crazy. But I grew up like farming and stuff, so I'm not really from the city or anything. I'm on the East Coast, but I'm not from the city. So my grandfather, he's 94, but he still works right now. Um, he managed a lot of like estates and stuff. And that's really how, because I've been working with like Amish communities and everything for years, and I've been doing like my own work and stuff as far as hay and different things. I don't really have neighbors, but the closest people around me all have like horse farms and stuff like that. And I've always had farm animals and different things ever since I was younger, and that's kind of just how my entire family kind of grew up. Just basically on like plantation style stuff out here, farmland and stuff. And I've been used to working with like the Amish for a long time, but the Amish space station, I don't really know. I'll tell you though, I woke up out of my sleep. I was asleep and it was like 2 or so in the morning. I don't even remember the time. And I just instantly woke up and I'm like, Amish space station. That's it right there. So I have these random things where I'm playing all these instruments and stuff. I play like almost 10 different instruments. And whenever I get super excited for something, I just it's a sight. If I might do some live in studio recordings, but it's a sight to see. But we get my whole group, we get wound up like beyond belief, start throwing each other around and stuff, and just feeding off of the energy to try and make some amazing type of music. And it's all in fun. And they're rowdy, but it just, whenever it comes to me like that, or I get something amazing, it's like that's exactly how I feel about NASA, as far as their entire, my space station is just as real as theirs as far as I'm concerned. And but it also, that was actually the real thing. Was I actually work with Amish people here on the East Coast, Eastern, shore area and stuff. So it's kind of like a play on play in the same way. And I've seen some people left me some comments, they some anti, some globers, of course, just like, oh, it would have been cool if you had some rockets made of wood. And I'm like, no, you missed the entire point of, and they're like, oh, well, but a lot of them, they don't, as far as in general, a lot of the hate that I've gotten has been like people looking at me like, you're not Amish. I'm like, I never actually said that I was Amish under any circumstances. I said the name of the network is Amish Space Station, and it's like a truth network. It's not really an Amish network. But people got really. I was surprised at how many people were triggered by it, and I'm like, man, you gotta relax a little bit. Stop being an emotional being and kind of, because that's what America is at this point. Is a lot of people in general. I talk about America, but they're emotional. Like you say, they just any feeling they feel, they just shoot out and respond to it. Like, oh, this is me. This is who I am. Somebody just attacked the president, said something negative about the president, so they
Mhm.
just insulted me. Now I have to jump across them and scratch them because that's who I am. I identify as this person, and that's part of it. But yeah, it was an awesome name. I wanted to create a new network, and that was like the best name ever. It woke me up out of my sleep. I don't know how it happened, but I was asleep, and I remember waking up at like 2 in the morning, like, that's it. That's the
Mhm.
name. So I wrote an entire album. I haven't recorded it yet, but it's like an alternative style of music. But it actually, because I was going to send you an email about it, but it's a play on words album where some of the names of the songs are like the Straw Man,
Hmm.
and I got it over here, but it's a lot of like historical stuff, um where the names are play off of those, and I actually wrote the songs not telling the story of what happened, but reenacting it in a
Mhm.
way. I'm kind of like an art form type of, heavily art driven. I like for things to have a message. So of course, when all this mumble rap nonsense started coming out, I was like, I don't know what this is, but we need to stop it now. And I was like leading this I mean, I was trolling celebrities so hard that a couple of them actually responded back to me. I was like all across their network, Facebook, looking for their, just because it was destroying like
Lyricism.
promoting drugs and stuff like they're doing now. It's completely different than when I was younger listening to some of the music. It's
Mm.
like they're just promoting, hey, pop as many drugs as you can and do this. I'm like, that's not, it was violence when I was younger, but not
And if you
do as
don't,
much
this
drugs.
mumble rap won't sound good. It's like
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
the the way
I
they speak it, and the beats are like you have to be on lean or something to be able to appreciate it. You gotta be
yeah,
slowed down to like this
yeah.
degree to be able to. Oh yeah, I'm on their wavelength now.
It's
That's the problem with
insane.
that music. It really does. I mean, talk about gateway drug. music like that is a gateway drug because you can't even appreciate it unless you're on the drugs that they're rapping about.
Yeah, yeah. It's a frequency. It's a
Yeah.
real frequency. And I realized to me that stuff sounds like static on the radio. And I realize other people when it's, that's why they say like the music you consume because it's like you are taking it inside of you and you're letting it speak to your subconscious. And I
Mm.
realized I was against it when I was younger, but I realized listening to all that like violent music when I was younger, it actually impacted me to where I thought, that some of those guys were actually gangsters. And now look at them now, and I'm like, these guys are actors.
Hmm.
They're all actors. Some of them talking about how much they smoke and they run a mile in like 5 minutes. I'm like, no, no, you hit the gym every day and you're lying on your song saying, getting other people to want to be just like you. And they were preaching it to, impressionable ages and stuff, especially when I was younger and stuff, I was listening to a lot of guys that were just, like I said, it wasn't as bad as it is now. But now it's like, you listen to them now and it's all drugs, violence, and just, fornication, of course, 24/7, and there's no attachment. So I've kind of lost the attachment to like almost like a humanity here in America, like a person to person. Because it's like everywhere I go, it's like I'm looking at different creatures.
Hmm.
I stopped and pulled over and just opened up my laptop at a Dunkin' Donuts. I recorded a little bit of it, but I was just trying to like relax, unwind a little bit, get some writing done. The next thing I know, three people start banging on my car window, and it's these three girls, and they're like, "Can you take a picture?" I'm like, "No," because they were acting really crazy. So they were barely dressed out in the parking lot, dancing and just looking at their phones. I'm like, "You guys are aliens to me." I'm like, I can't even understand what's going on. It's like there's music out there, but there's no music. The music's in their head somewhere. And they're out in public, like barely dressed, shaking and stuff going. I'm like, dude, this is so I rolled down the window. I'm like, you guys are all psychotic. And they threw up their middle fingers and stuff. I'm like, you guys need go get help. Go get help. So they got angry, I guess, thought I was being mean. But I can't even relate to a lot of people here anymore because of how twisted they are. They're just in their Instagram world,
Mm.
and it's outrageous. I can't get down with that type of stuff, man. But let me ask you another question real quick, Eric. So another question I had for you was the stress type of thing. Like how exactly do you de-stress from the research and because it is necessary to do the research because one of my friends real quick he was like, dude, you got to stop looking up all this. It's upsetting you, it's getting you worked up. I'm like, it's going to come to your front door. I said we have to stop it, we have to acknowledge it. I can't run from it. He's like, well, yeah, but you can take it easy sometimes. I'm like, yeah, I could, but we got to pay attention to it because it's gonna. And sure enough, that was in 2019.
Mm.
And 3 or 4 months later, that was December. So a few months later, it was at his doorstep right there. And he
Hmm.
called me and he's like, dude, all I wanted to do was live my life. I said, dude, they're not going to let you. You're not
Hmm.
allowed to live your
Hmm.
life free. You're not allowed. So he learned that really quick. But how would you some of your techniques? I know you've done some videos on it, but if some people find this stuff out, it can be stressful at first when they discover like the reality. How would you go about de-stressing and relaxing and working through that?
Mm. That was a multi-part answer to that. Um, so one way to help alleviate the emotions that come about from learning all of these things about conspiracies and politics and the direction the New World Order is trying to take the world, um, is to be active and to do activism and to use your power to do anything you can that you can think of, using your creativity and your influence, whether it be speaking up, boycotting, doing online activism, making videos, stickers, pamphleteering in mailboxes, making a newsletter to on an email list to all people that that are on the same wavelength, or that would at least read articles or watch videos that you'll send them, things like this, so that you're not just a passive observer seeing the world go to shit all around you and woe is me. You know, you actually have to do something. You have to get active to get out of that emotional space, and that will at least raise you up to some higher vibration. Though, of course, researching all the time and then doing activism all the time, that's going to raise your stress levels as well because of how much stuff you're doing, how much externalization you're doing. And so you also have to balance it by making sure you have plenty of time for yourself and things to do for yourself. For me, that is meditation, yoga, uh, martial arts. Especially, I think, for guys, for our masculine energy, it's good to be able to just, you know, beat a punching bag sometimes. It's exactly what you need. And if you don't do it, you're going to end up snapping or yelling at someone you shouldn't or something like that instead. So it's good to get out that kind of energy through martial arts. Like I said, yoga and meditation to try and center yourself. And the massage is a really good one. If you can pay for massages, or if you have someone that loves you, that's better. The best massages you can get and give are with your significant other, and they're free, of course. It's a great de-stressor. And also just, whatever your preferred entertainment is, video games or movies or whatever, it's fine to indulge in a little bit of that, at night before bed or something like that, just so you have something that you can turn your brain off. Because even I do that. Like I speed read, and I can, I go through so much information in a day on the research end, and then I've also gotten really fast at the activism end, meaning like I'm able to create videos and proliferate them on social medias, and I have like click of a button. I'm on so many different sites now, and I have what would you call it, like a thing that I do. Like every time I upload, I have all these sites I go through, and so I have a framework for how to be effective in getting these things out. And then when I'm done, I allow myself to shut my brain off and watch a movie or play a video game or something like that. And then I'm refreshed and wanting to get back to work, because I mean, I don't know, especially the more you get into this, the less entertaining entertainment is. Like as a kid, I could entertain myself all day with video games and movies and stuff. Now, as the reality of these things is on your shoulders, and you see it, like your friend in 2019, you might want to be living one way, and then 2020 comes and it's like, okay, how can you just sit there and distract yourself with distractions or entertain yourself with entertainments when true negativity, true enslavement is on your doorstep? You have to take action. And your free time, those little moments that you just take a breath, truly become just that. And so I'm saying to balance yourself by allowing yourself distractions and entertainment, but don't get lost in them and use them as escapism like a lot of people do, because you want to be a player in history and not just be a pawn that is sacrificed. And we definitely have power, and the time to use it is coming up. It's like everything's coming to a head now, where the complete centralization, the peak of this new world order will be when there truly is just one digital currency, and you cannot buy or sell unless you're on it. And there may just be one government, and all dictates are sent down from the UN, say, or some other centralized structure. And I'm talking about that in the future, but like we said, in 2020, isn't that what we already saw? It's already in place. Whenever these random people whose names we don't even really know want want it to be so, They have their figureheads in place in power positions to simultaneously lock down the entire world so nobody can even leave their house. Like, when before in history has that level of centralized power existed? Never. When have we allowed it as humanity? When have we been so dumbed down and, enslaved mentally that we don't stand up in unison, and completely boycott something like that? Instead, what do?
Yeah.
6 feet. Get away from me. Like, what? What
Yeah.
happened, people? It was the most surreal 3 years ever, and I hope that when they, it's like a torture dial. They turn it down and they turn it off. And right now they scaled it back a little bit because we, 3 years of that crap. People like your friend were waking up, and they're like, okay, well, we can't have too many wake up. It's the totalitarian tiptoe, not the totalitarian steamroll. They got to do it slowly, and so they'll turn it back on. But while we're in one of these phases where it's, not so bad, that's our time to get out there and, use this free time that we have before the next thing, whatever it may be, because there will be. They create these events and then they use them. Problem, reaction, solution, their modus operandi. When you want to make a society, tailor fit to the way that you want it to be, you can't just enact a law and then society goes along with it. No, no. There's a process. There's a soap opera process. And the male-centered soap opera that I've been talking about works like this, where in the news they propagate something that may have really happened or may not have even happened, but it seems like it does if it's on 24 hours on every news channel in the world. And then that garners a reaction that they knew would happen because you're going to be, angry or sad or distressed some way about this problem that they presented you with. And then right after that reaction comes, oh, they're going to have this solution here for you. Oh, and they get your emotions, oh, and then right in the right time, they throw the solution for you so that, oh, I can just keep watching my TV and they're going to deal with it for me again. Every time. I love how it works like this, participatory democracy. It's just so easy. I just sit back, watch them create and solve my problems for me. Yeah. And that's why the world has gotten so much more controlled, and to the degree that it's at now, where they can say that there's some floaty, somebody ate some bat soup in China and then it floated all across the world. Ooh, and you go to, oh, you can't get through. Oh, but we've got the cure. If we let us into your bloodstream, and
Yeah.
then the bat soup poison won't affect you. And there's people
It,
like 50% of the population here still wearing masks because they still got CV propaganda going on the TV all the time.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I see people here. Even some people I've worked with, I haven't seen their faces in years now. I'm like, man, I got one guy to finally, take it off, and I got to see his face again. I'm like, now doesn't that feel better? And he started laughing at me, but I mean, I think a lot of people, they're all mentally damaged. They're all so mentally damaged by it all, especially the kids too, who have to live through some of that. And yeah, like you said, it was a wake up call, I think for a lot of people, because I'm kind of, that's why I feel the way I feel now, because I'm kind of really angry about it. And I don't look at it the same anymore now. And I still try to adhere to giving people information and showing the proof behind a lot of it. But after, and I tell people this all the time, after what we just lived through, for people who actually know what everything really was, and really did the research, me, I sat down for almost 10 hours a day from 2019, just about at the start of that thing, for almost 10 hours a day. I was actually sitting in with different doctors and talking with people and stuff. And, so I pretty much had just mastered everything that really went down there. And it's really upsetting. I'm to the point now where I don't even need proof anymore. It's like if they say something that I don't like, I'm like, but you just did this. It's like the boy who cried wolf. It's like once you lie enough,
Hmm.
you lose the whole credibility thing where I don't have to prove any of it anymore. I've proven that you lied 50 times here. I don't have to prove the 51st,
Exactly.
52nd, or any of that.
That's why flat Earth is so important and influential,
Yeah.
because it's so fundamental and foundational. And when people wake up to realizing that something like that is a lie that everyone believes, and all political systems, countries,
Hmm.
every space agency, universities, and books and everything, all these things are duplicitous in
Hmm.
propping up a gargantuan lie like that. It's like the boy who cried wolf. It becomes
Hmm.
almost impossible for you to be deluded and deceived to that degree again, which
Right.
is why I say it's flat Earth is like the Achilles heel of the New World Order. It's not the heart. Someone got at me about it, and I agree. Like there's other issues that you could say are more um, that like for instance the money issue, like getting back to like some legitimate form of money, or having decentralization of currencies and allowing new banks to open up and these kind of things. That would be like the front door,
Hmm.
that this, or the heart. The money system or the political system are the heart of the New World Order. I agree with that. I'm saying flat Earth is the Achilles heel. It's that little part on the back of your foot
Yeah.
that the in the Greek myth was sliced, and then
Uh,
you can't walk anymore. And
right.
that's what I'm saying. Flat Earth is like that, in the sense that all of these other deceptions rely on this foundation. And if you slice that Achilles heel open, all these other deceptions and all these other propaganda methods that they've been using, as I said in, I think, my previous podcast, I think I know one or two flat earthers that fell for the 2020 propaganda, and
Yeah.
many of the others. It's one of the only demographics I know of that didn't fall for it. Like the
Right.
vegans, a lot of vegans fell for it, and a lot
Right.
of other demographics that I'm involved in that are awake in some sectors of society, but still
Hmm.
blinded in others. But
Hmm.
this flat earth thing, it's so foundational that when you wake up to it, all those other conspiracies and
Hmm.
deceptions and lies and the political everything, it just, you really take a step back and you have a real skeptical eye about everything. So
Yeah.
again, it's that being the witness thing, like we were talking about at the beginning. When you learn a new language, or you go to a new country, or you do meditation, when you research to that degree and you find out how gargantuan the lies are, no
Hmm.
longer does consensus reality um, delude you. You don't just give a truth verdict to something because 99% of the public believes one way. That doesn't sway you anymore like it might have before. So it's a whole new way of being that
Yeah.
the flat earth revelation institutes in people. And
Yeah.
that revelation uh, can end the new world order
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
And it's so relevant to everyone because we're all living on this flat earth, and it's
Yeah.
so easy to find the truth of it, because you can do your own experiments to figure it out any day, unlike every other conspiracy, which is so full of minutia, and it's someone else in some other place and some other time. It's difficult to know 100% some of these other conspiracies, but this biggest conspiracy of all is the easiest one to know. So
Right.
in that way, it's this Achilles heel that's just waiting for us to slice it. That's why I've been pushing it so hard ever since I figured out it was the truth. I was like, oh my God, this is how
Yeah.
we can wake the world up. They're
Yeah.
lying about this thing? How dare
Yeah.
they? How dare they go
Yeah.
that far? They went too far. we, we, we're all living on this thing, but that was before 2020. Jeez. Once that happened, that's like, okay, well, they just did another worldwide thing like that. There's
Right.
a meme I love that it's like that Willy Wonka thing, and he's like, "Oh, so you think that all the world's governments couldn't be involved? The world couldn't be flat because that would mean all the world's governments involved." It's like, how's that worldwide quarantine treating you? It's like, yeah, people use that line of thinking all
Yeah.
the time, that, oh, there couldn't be a lie that
Right.
big because that would mean all these people are in on it. It's like, what happened in 2020? The whole world shut down based on that. You can still believe that bat
Hmm.
soup or whatever, you know, that is a lie. The
Yeah.
no matter what narrative, there's a bunch of narratives they were trying to speak. They're all lies. All the mainstream narratives for that thing were lies.
Yeah. All of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, every single one of them. And it just like you say, it that actually was the big thing for me was that because I was chasing a lot of like politics and I was trying to explain different things from 2001 and what really went down there and all that is cartoons,
Hold on,
essentially,
guys.
all the volcanoes on Mars and stuff that were
Hold on,
exploding
guys.
and everything going on. Like, people are wrapped up into that.
Can you hear?
But like you said, it should be really
Should be back
easy,
now.
especially after the whole, now. But what's weird? It's like they're flipping the scripts now, and they showed the
Thank
whole
you,
levels
Andrew.
together during that, and then they flipped the script again upside down, and they're like, okay, now Russia's the bad guy, and this is who we point fingers at now, right on cue. So everybody forgot that Russia followed every directive the same way as everyone else did, and now all of a sudden they're a loose cannon again. Now all of a sudden they're, and I'm like, it should be obvious to people, but I guess the grip of that propaganda is so strong that they can see the truth in front of them sometimes and still not be able to, to rectify it. But as far as Earth and stuff, you yourself, there's more than enough information out here. There was another hit piece that another guy had did. I did a video on because he's up here talking about how the Earth. So I'm in Alaska, so if the sun is way over here on that thingy, and it's in, how's it sunny here? I'm like, dude, this stuff. It's almost like I don't even want to respond to some of it because I know that they haven't done any research into it at all,
A lot
and
of
they
times
should
it's
be
just like that.
embarrassed.
They're not
Uh,
debunking anything. They're asking you a question. Well, how
right,
would this work?
right,
So
right.
you're asking me a question. You haven't refuted anything. You've just asked me a question, and I guarantee you don't want to know the answer.
Right, right,
Because
and they don't.
if you did, you would have researched it before now and found the
Yeah,
answer, rather than
yeah,
asking it to me in this gotcha manner. Like just
yeah.
asking me a flat Earth question is gonna stump me.
That, like, we haven't studied it for years, like, because for me it was surreal, and especially even when NASA just came in, because sometimes you learn it and you're still like, well, maybe the ball still could be true, possibly somewhere, maybe. And NASA came out, but for me, I kind of knew, and I'm like, man, this is really, like you said, it was really serious. And then NASA came out and they're like, yeah, the moon is inside the Earth's atmosphere, and I seen that on the headlines of NASA. I'm like, what the hell did they just say? I'm like, and I showed my friend. He was like, his eyes got all big, and I was like, yeah, you see what's going on now. I'm like, they're not going to stop. They're going to move the goalposts over and over and over, and they're not going to stop. It's like everything from what you thought you knew 50 years ago has been upended at this point now, and it's like, oh, I looked at the moon, it was in outer space, blah blah blah. It's like, no, that NASA said it's not in outer space. That's what they say themselves. And it's amazing, because I never thought that I would see some of that stuff, but that a lot of that actually really sealed the deal. And it went from, me defending them. And I wasn't a defender hard at all. I was mainly upset with Eddie Bravo because he was just like, man, look, I know he's talking to Joe Rogan. He's like, trust me, man, it is. It, like, you don't understand. I'm like, Eddie, you got to stop. You gotta stop. And I'm like, okay, I'm debunking him right now. I'm so, I found you. I'm like, huh, well, damn. All right. So after that, Eddie was like one of my favorite guys. I'm like, dude, yeah, he's telling the truth now. Now, if he's not on a show, I'm like, yeah, I don't think I want to see it anymore. And before it was the opposite, because like I had that kind of rage response to it at first. I was like, he has to stop. He has to stop saying that, and then I realized, but I think a lot of people, they don't know like what it really means about how every single space agency is actually lying to you. Even when it comes to Elon and all this freedom, fighting for your freedom, and then appointing some World Economic Forum person to run Twitter and all this nonsense. It's all a game. It's a big game
Mhm.
for them. And once you realize that, then you understand. But a lot of the things that actually grab people is like they say that and they're like, well, how come Russia's not saying anything? They don't like us. I'm like, you're not getting it. They are partners. They're all partners in this entire thing. You know, I pointed out in my revolution video that a lot of the royalty, they're all related to each other. You know what I mean? Especially during World War I and stuff, they're all like related to each other over there, and Europe area and stuff. And I'm like, that's what it is. You know, you got to understand this is bigger than what you're thinking. It's like there nobody's gonna come forward. And like I said, even in my video, I said we've already came forward. You know, we've been you yourself, you've been writing books in I don't know how many different languages, putting out this information for people to see and gather. People have spoke out about this. You know, pilots have been speaking out. I don't know who they want to speak out. I think they just want.
NASA. They want
Even
like
Trump spoke out. You know, so
they want like
Trump
some
said we got
NASA
Space Force.
spokesperson. Yeah,
Huh?
everyone's waiting for some NASA spokesperson or Neil Tyson or something to come out and just be like,
Yeah,
"We've been lying to you the whole time. The
yeah.
Earth is flat. These pictures are all CGI. We're not going to steal we're not going to steal billions of dollars of your money every year for free now for some reason, and we're just going to fess up to it all for fun. Like it's
And
never going to happen. They're stealing so much money. They're making so much bank. Like
yeah,
why would they ever like and liars like how often does a liar sincerely come forward, apologize, and then reform their ways? Like you're really expecting that, and on a scale
right,
this large? Come
right.
on
I
now,
mean,
you've been
how
watching too
many
many movies.
prisoners?
Yeah,
Right, right. How many prisoners do you have that's ever really confessed? They walk in knowing they did it, and they're like, "I plead innocent." You know, like they know they did it, and they're still not going to come out and be like, "No, no." You know, they're not going to tell you the truth. And just like you said, some of them have. You know, as far as Tyson, you know, he said it was flat. You know, the same as Trump. He said it too. He's how we got Space Force without space. It's like you know, so they come out and actually tell people, you know, what the reality is, but people are so they're so hooked on it that it's weird. But I think just from 2020, a lot of that has shaken a little, you know, loose a little bit, and they're more open because I'm not seeing as much hatred toward
Mhm.
it. But before it was a lot of hatred directed. I noticed, and you know, anybody who thought that they were just ridiculed. Now it's you know you're getting a lot of people acknowledging it as far as the past president, you know, and other people are actually acknowledging different things now. You know, I don't know if it's part of their plan to try and make it look bad in some kind of way, depending on if it's like a meeting or a society or some crap like that, conference, whatever it's called. But some of that stuff, I'm like, you know, because it has to be done the right way. And I think a lot of that stuff can be bad publicity, and it has to, you know, because I watched some of the films that came out. I like Level. I loved Level. Level was amazing, and that's the weird thing is some of these people are so wrapped up in the nonsense that it's like they actually put Level clips on their video trying to debunk what you guys were saying in there. I'm like, you do know you just showed the Earth from 120,000 feet not spinning, and they put it up there, and they have no idea that it was actually up there. Or a couple of the other ones were, you know, the boats over the curve and stuff. And it's this huge YouTube dude. You know, more than 500,000 subscribers on his network, just on YouTube alone. And he put out a hit piece. And I'm just like, but he puts a lot of other stuff that's, you know, like political, but it's all just nonsense. And I'm like, it's left right divide. And but every time that flat Earth is brought up, I notice that some of those really big guys that a lot of people travel to go see and go meet, they do hit pieces on it. They're like, you know, I've flown on an airplane, I've flown across the world. You know, you're not going to be able to tell me that it's. I'm like, dude, you don't know which direction you're going really at the end of the day. You know, you know, and like I said, other people have documented these flight paths, and they're like, oh, I've been looking at this since 1989. I'm like, no, you haven't. No, no, you haven't. I've been looking at it a couple of years ago, and I've learned all this. It's like I know for a fact you have been looking at it for 30 years, and you still think you're moving and spinning right now. You know, so I kind of get fired up, and I feel like I have to respond sometimes to some of those guys because it's really some of them are blaming the flat Earth, where they felt as if everything was coming together, and then when flat Earth was started picking up traction, it divided people completely, split them right down the middle. And I'm like, I don't really think that you know, I don't think that that's really what it was. I think it some of the people that were awake that had the capacity to understand, they learned it, and then the other people that didn't, they hated it and maybe came along to learn it later, like me at first. I was against it, and but now it's like, there's no proofs of any kind of movement or any kind of curvature or anything, quite frankly. And it's like you can't deny reality. And then you see what's going on now, where guys are girls and girls are guys, violating the law of identity now. So nobody really knows. I hear truthers now. You probably heard it. They say, yeah, I think it's a globe and it's flat at the
Mm.
same time. Like, dude, why don't you just wake up, just choose a side. Nobody
Mhm.
wants the traitor who's going to stab you in the back and pretend to be your friend. Next thing you know, they're
It's a
turning on you.
it's a simulation, they say, and
Ah,
so it can be a globe and flat at the same time.
that's it.
And
That's it.
apparently it doesn't have to be there. There doesn't need to be a god. So someone commented that the other day. So that with this new simulation theory, people
Yeah.
are now running circles in their brains, thinking that it's possible to, because everything is a simulation, whatever that means to them, means that you no longer have to have a intelligent designer, like a purposeful creator. Like, what?
Mhm.
Yeah, well, who's running the simulation? Who started the
Right.
simulation?
Right.
And it can be a globe and flat at the same time. Well,
Mhm.
how? We have sensory experience, we have empirical data, we can actually experiment with the
Yeah.
physicality and
Yeah.
know whether it's one or the other.
Or
It
the other.
can't physically be both.
Oh,
No, man. It's like, how much drugs have these people been on? It's flat and a sphere, and
right.
it's concave and hollow, and it's also a square. And the sun, the sun goes in circles that you can see for 24 hours, but it also goes through Enoch Pac-Man portals, because it says so in the Book of Enoch. Oh, and
Right.
there's 178 extra continents beyond Antarctica that
Oh,
no one has ever seen, but
oh,
they exist because somebody drew them on a crappy little map somewhere
oh.
and said so.
Oh, I meant to ask you about that. That winds me up. People get so angry, and I tell them, I'm like, man, if we can't go below the 60th, how about we get to Antarctica first before
Yeah,
we actually talk about
before you
places that
start.
are like
Yeah,
15 days of traveling?
yeah.
You'd be traveling for a month to get there. You don't even know what's there. It's like that, whether or not there's more land. I tell people it's
And
that's
all of
fine if
those
you want to.
maps are different. The Buddhist map with the little
Yeah,
continents, the Martin Kinney cosmic egg map with the 3 rings, and then the 178 ring map. All the continents are shaped different in different alignments and different
yeah,
spaces. So clearly, none of this is based on anything but imagination, people. But man, like, it triggers me a lot because I don't know whether it's like a super driven propaganda campaign or if it has just diluted the flat earth community so much. But I get more comments about these, like the moon map thing. The moon is the true map of the earth, as well as the Nos Confunden map and the
mhm,
cosmic egg map, and all these maps that are not based on anything that we can verify.
right,
Meanwhile, the simple azimuthal equidistant map, which is just basically the globe but splayed out,
yeah,
or you could say
yep,
it's the globe is the flat Earth splayed into a globe.
hmm,
Therefore, that is the most universally accepted map. And
right,
like I say, I don't use any one map or model and claim it to be the
right.
truth. I just use them all for visualizations and approximations. But the funny thing is the AE map seems to be under the most scrutiny and like the most attack of any map. And then all these other ridiculous maps, like the 178 little squiggles, is
Right.
getting promoted endlessly. And I get comment after comment and video after video trying to say, like, Eric, why aren't you getting on board with this? It's so obvious that it's like, where is the steam for this idea coming? Because there is no physical
Oh,
verification for any of this stuff. So
mhm.
how are people getting so on it? I just got one comment from someone that's like, the Earth is an infinite plane, Eric, and you're, uh, you know, covering it up. It's like, how can you say definitely that the Earth is an infinite plane? Have you walked infinitely to,
Right.
like,
Right.
we can't even know that.
No.
But this
No.
person is like calling me a controlled opposition because I'm not verifying the truth of the infinite plane. You
Right.
can't know that.
Where do you see America heading as far as like just as an offshoot real quick? Do you see America in the future kind of because to me it looks like they can go many different routes with the situation they have going on with the Russia situation to possible false happenings to another shutdown, climate issues, blah blah blah, any possible way, 15-minute cities, a lot of that type of stuff. What do you see? Even the upcoming election, which I already know. You already know. I don't even know if I. That's kind of why I might just like leave the country for that for a while, just to go out on some island and act like it doesn't even exist. Because I really don't think I can control myself around people who are glued to the TV and just watching this 2024, whatever they're going to do, because it's going to,
Mm.
but I just want to know, what did you think would be the possible or a possible future for America? Do you see it from where you are? Do you see it heading differently, like headed to a different path than me as far as war or something like that?
Mm.
Or
Is that where you see potentially as
I,
war?
I I don't know. Because of what they did, I kind of think that they could shut us all down, do some martial law stuff. They could just use this war and bankrupt us even more than what technically we already are. I
Mm.
know all that is just for show, but it's if people believe it, it's like my favorite line from The Matrix. If you believe it, then that's what makes it real. So it's one of those things where people are up here just believing it. So they could do a whole nother war situation and spark it off and then shut us down, or they could just tank the economy
Hmm.
and kind of just like make that play out, and or they could have some kind of crisis happen because cows are dangerous,
Mm.
and you got to be real careful, especially with them breathing and farting and all that. They're killing us,
Hmm.
so they could do anything, we got to get to zero carbon. I went around my job, I told people, I'm like, dude, I think we all should just collectively jump off the bridge. And people
and,
were
and
looking at me
and
all
don't breathe out
crazy.
while we're falling. Like, don't exhale. Don't exhale. You'll harm the earth.
I told a dude, I said, man, I know what your problem is. Have you looked at your carbon footprint? He said, I already fixed it. I bought a smaller shoe. And I'm like, that's it right there. That's how you beat it. That dude was awesome, man. But yeah, I was just wondering what you thought about that. Because there's like three, it's bad when they have three different angles that they probably could successfully pull off, you
Right.
know? Any of them, I think they could pull off. I mean, is that what you see, or do you see anything different?
Exactly. I think that they probably have contingency plan A, B, and C, and then they look at the world stage and how people are leaning at the time, and now with AI, they can just run these models through some of these kind of AI systems and figure out how the public is going to react. That you have so much information processing in these data systems now that they can create artificial intelligence models to give them pretty much uh, you know statistics of how this speech would fare, how this policy would be accepted, these kind of things. So it's not even up to chance at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Now they got so much information on us and how to manipulate us that they can do so in a statistical way. In a democracy, all they have to do is manipulate the 51%, over the 49%, which is why the mainstream media, is like the fourth branch of a democratic government,
Yeah.
because the other the other three are essentially held at bay by the whim of the majority, which can easily be controlled by propaganda. So if
Mm-hmm.
you've got a small elite that is able to sway the majority population with mainstream media and the mainstream education system, now you have a malleable population that you can tailor to go whichever direction you want, while making them believe that they are the people making the decisions, and it's going the way that the majority wants it to go at all times. And you're just creating bigger and bigger minorities and divisions to the point of like, who is the majority in America? Is there any party that has 51% backing at this point, or any candidate, or any, any, in most spheres at this point, we're so divided, like even in like religious sects or something,
Mhm.
most, for instance, what percentage of Christians are this denomination, this denomination, this denomination?
Right.
This denomination has 1%, this has 2%, to the point that there is no majority denomination of Christianity that exists. And so we're completely scattered and I'm just using that as an example, but
Yeah.
all sectors of society, it tends towards that. And I think about this often because I don't know the answer, because in a sense, I like decentralization, and it makes sense to me that everyone should have their own version of how you think of Christianity. So in
Right.
my book, if there's 2 billion Christians, there should be 2 billion denominations, because
Right.
you should all be thinking by yourself what
Right.
this means to you. And when you try to group it in, it's like, oh, well, how
Yeah.
can everyone fit into a group? So
Yeah.
I have this issue where it's like you were saying, it's like we're being divided.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a problem. But at the same time, the other problem is centralization, the New
Right.
World Order. And
Yeah.
so what is it we want here? Do we want centralization because we need to be centralized to be able to fight the other bad centralized thing?
Mhm.
Or is the answer decentralization, which is basically the division that they're
Mhm.
harboring anyway? So do we want to be divided? Is this good,
Right.
actually? Because we're all just super divided. We're all
Right.
our own, thinking our own ways and individuals.
Mhm.
Uh, if we actually had freedom and lived in a voluntarist society, I think that level of decentralization and division would be good.
Yeah.
But since we're not actually living in that society,
Not
we're
at all.
living in a very controlled and centralized society that is creating that kind of division. So it's like division, not decentralized. We have centralized division, centralized divisiveness. What we really want is decentralized unity. Ooh.
Right.
Right?
Right.
We,
Right.
we all we all want to be, our own, doing our own thing on our own path, having freedom. But
Yeah.
somehow or another, we all need to get on board with this. We all have to, like I said, flat Earth can be one step, that we can
Yeah.
all understand that, hey, we're not on this spinning globe thing that all the governments and all the mainstream media and the education systems are telling us. We can all
Yeah.
get off of that lie and get on
Right.
this new foundation. And from there, other foundations can be built, such as I'm saying the 2020 thing. Maybe we can all agree that that was a big lie, you know,
Mhm.
and then further and build. But we don't need to necessarily create a group that has a name that's like the Flat Earth 2020 Denier Club. It's like,
Right.
we, that's not what we need. um,
Yeah.
so it's,
Yeah.
how do you get a unity of humanity without going into some grouping that can be easily controlled or steered off course? That's
Right.
my big question that I keep coming back to, because it's
Yeah.
like we want unity of decentralization. It's like this
Right.
paradox. How do we all come together to fight collectivism?
Yeah. 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 Because it's actually them. They're the ones. The controllers and things. They are the unity, the unified ones. And that is the issue. Is them. But just like you said, coming together to be able to tear that down. I the I've said, even in my music and stuff, it's the media really that controls everything. Whatever
Yeah.
happens in here, even from state to state, you will never know what goes on from in a state next to you here in America unless it's on the media and it's on the television or something. I don't really like the culture, and I don't like the people as who they have become. There are some people that are amazing. I'm not. It's not a blanket statement. I mean it just as in general.
Mhm.
They're not good people. It's like if I have a flat tire, I'm not really expecting anybody to actually stop and help me. And maybe they would now because unfortunately, everybody's so brainwashed now that it's like if they see me pulled over with a flat tire and they ride by, they might think like BLM is going to come to their house and do some crazy stuff. So they're like, okay, it's my duty to help him. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he's dangerous or not, because a lot of like just white people in general are the ones being targeted and attacked here really bad. And it's a crazy campaign, and it's really really weird because I talk with a few white guys at my job, and they're like, yeah man, Virginia just has all those white races. I'm like, dude, just stop with all this nonsense. I'm like, there's people from every race that have mental issues that are racist against someone else for whatever. I'm like, and they're just no, these are the extremists, proud boy, and I'm like, no, they're not. They're not. I'm like, that you're putting down your own specific race, and you're helping them feed a hatred brewing. And that's I can't say, I don't I you really you can't say it on here, but who's responsible for that as far
Mhm.
as trying to destroy like the white race in general and stuff. And it I don't like to see it personally. So that's what I'm just wondering. Here in America, there's a lot of different ethnicities and a lot of different things. So it's not like it would be in China. They can do that in China because there's like one type of, people, one type of, thought, and the other people, of course, that they round up and do some other questionable things to, and you get kicked off of YouTube anytime you mention it,
Mhm.
apparently. But
Mhm.
it just in general, like, are you experiencing a lot of like any kind of like racism there, or the quality of people, the women there, the men in general? Is it like a better quality of people there where you are versus here that you've noticed?
I definitely see like a degradation of all cultures and
Yeah.
peoples happening. So it's not like I don't think anywhere is escaping it and upholding their historic values and culture and traditions as much as, 60, 70, 80 years ago, um, because we're under such attack from the mainstream media and education system with all these progressive ideologies, and though to answer your question, America seems particularly cultureless or rootless, or in the sense of most other places have really rich cultures, histories going back thousands of years, that America doesn't have that opportunity. And because America is a melting pot, it also doesn't have the opportunity to have a single national identity that's really cohesive in the way that somewhere like Thailand does. And so
Well, we
what
got the
I
rainbow.
no comment.
That's, that's the new symbol, I suppose. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. I had to.
And so I see in places like Thailand, they are um, a lot of the people really love their culture and their traditional values, and even if it is slowly being degraded, um, I still see a lot of people really hanging on to it and trying to, and having a real pride in it, which is, I think, difficult for Americans to do, because what is there to cling on to? Hot dogs? The Constitution that's being decimated? It's like, what is the truly American thing that Americans are supposed to hold on to as being their traditional American values? I would say freedom. And but are we? Are Americans really holding on to that thing that made America so special, that made Americans Americans? The freedom, that's what we had over the world. That was our thing. That's what we had to hold on to and claim over everyone else. And like I was saying, now it's not really the case, and that's a shame, because it's just going to continue that way the world over. Like, if we don't have a bastion of freedom with a document showing a way towards freedom, then we're just going to start going, towards the other ways. And I'm not saying the Constitution of America is like infallible or something. I it's just a lot better than a lot of other places in the world, the way that their political structure is. I do think a lot of places, they are hanging on to their cultural values more because they have them. And it's easier to think America's been easy to uproot because they don't have a long-standing culture really to hang on. Our culture is like Hollywood and the music, it's the movie and music industry, and it's exported the world over because it's high quality, it's expensive, those entertainments, but they're really just that. They're entertainments. It's not really culture. They call it like the culture creation. Culture can't be created that quickly by on high, from these social engineers. Culture happens over hundreds and thousands of years and is upheld by the societies themselves because it's the values that they actually agree with. And I mean, they are changing people, but I don't think that the current value system of selfies and likes and twerking and everything they're trying to promote into society is actually what people hold dear and what they're going to continue to hold on to, because that's what America is becoming now to the world, is Cardi B and that kind of thing. What, fake asses being shaked and no brains anywhere in sight, that kind of thing. Uh, that's what's being exported.
Yeah.
That's what people are seeing more and more so. And like the whole feminist ideology and all the movies, like all the heroes now are feminine. They're all female heroes or feminine men, and like any masculinity is toxic and it's only reserved for the antagonists now. All antagonists are toxic males, and the protagonists are like these little female, like, and they don't have any they don't have to, like, the new Star Wars, like, she didn't have to do any training or anything. A lot of these female heroes, because the feminists that are writing them, they can't have a disempowered female at the beginning of the story that goes through a normal character arc and becomes an empowered female. No, 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 no. All females are automatically empowered, boss babe, 11 out of 10s, straight from birth. And if you say anything else, you're a
Um,
misogynistic pig. that's
it's
that's the
very
Western,
true.
that's what Western feminist ideals are exporting the world over, and yeah, Thai women laugh at that. A lot
Yeah.
of Eastern women don't buy into this whole feminist narrative of hating men and I don't need no man and I'm an independent woman because I get my own paycheck, which comes from a boss that's probably a man in an industry
Right.
that's run by men, selling products that were created by men in a building that was built by men. But I don't need no man. And of course, like, the funny part about that whole feminist narrative is that if you just if we could go back to traditional, say, 1950s American values and the economy that supported it, where one man could go out and support a woman and a kid and have a car and a house, um, being subservient or submissive, or just a team player to a man like that is so much more preferable to having to go out every single day and work an office job and interact with a bunch of other men and get, you're, these women that have fallen for this feminist narrative that they're able to survive without the influence of men. It's like you're just getting your money from other men elsewhere rather than the man you choose and love and stay at home to take care of, like used to be the ideal. And a lot of women are coming back around to it who have tried to do the boss babe, feminist, independent, don't need no man lifestyle. They
Mhm.
realize that, well, you know, I could just fall into my, instead of like being this masculine, because that's what it is. They go into their masculine energy and try to go out into the world and be more successful, be more manly in a man's world than the men are, while complaining about it the whole time, versus just being in their feminine energy, staying at home in the kitchen, whatever, all those misogynistic phrases. A lot of women don't, especially where I'm from here, what I'm saying, they don't take that as disempowering or misogynistic in any way. They see that as their proper place in life is to support the man they chose rather than working for anonymous men and anonymous consumers and whatever, or OnlyFans, or the things women are doing nowadays. That you're just getting a bunch of simp men that you don't. It's the exact opposite, basically. If you're an empowered feminist on OnlyFans, making your money from a bunch of simps that you don't even respect,
Hmm.
then you're still not independent. You need a bunch of men that you don't respect, versus you could be living and loving one man that you chose and do respect, and you just have to shut off that narrative of being independent, and you can just admit that you're dependent. Just like me as a man, I admit that I'm dependent. I couldn't live in this world without everyone else, without
Hmm.
grocery stores, without money, without engineers, electricians, plumbers, you know, sewage management people, trash, management people. Like, it's mostly men doing these kind of jobs because women naturally, and the way that the patriarchy has designed society is so that women can do the more cushy jobs, and they do. They go to the lower paying jobs, and that's why when you take, you know, cents on a dollar, the feminists will say women only make 70 cents to the man's dollar, which is just not true. That's just a type of study that they do where they don't factor in all variables, which is the fact that men actually work more hours. They work higher paying and more difficult jobs than women usually choose to. Women take maternity leave. They often aren't as interested in climbing the corporate ladder as a man is, and they tend to get more into their family once they have a family, because that's, dare I say it, the natural thing for them to do.
Hmm.
But the feminists don't want to admit that. They just want to say 70 cents on the dollar, it's not equal. We're not being treated fairly. Yes, you are. Since I
Yeah.
think it was 1962, it's been illegal to pay women differently if they're doing the same job. So there is no gender pay gap that the feminists scream about. And all these other things that they complain about, the patriarchy is getting them down. Well, it's mostly men creating this system that has allowed women to, burn their bras and do all the
Right.
other feminist things that they're, to the point that now, uh, the straight white male has become the, like, dare I say, minority, or like downtrodden class. Because if you're like a minority female, say, like, the cultural standing now is that I can't say anything. Like you were saying, about people won't drive by you; they'll be scared BLM will come after them.
Yeah.
It's in this supposedly white male patriarchy. Nowadays, that demographic is one of the easiest ones to just spit on, and nobody's gonna bat an eye, including the white male themselves. That's just like, oh, okay. I mean, I
Yeah.
think people have been indoctrinated into that offended, um, being triggered, and like wearing it on their sleeve, like, rather than it being embarrassing to be an easily triggered and emotional human being, rather than thinking stoicism and being unfazed is a masculine and good trait. No, we're flipping it on its head now, and it's
Right.
it's so cool to flip out and be a Karen and be offended, and film it for TikTok, and show, like, can you believe what's happening to me? And it's going back to that thing I was saying at the beginning. It's the externalization of not being your own witness to an nth degree. Because if you're not being the witness to your own thoughts and emotions, then you're going to externalize them and project them onto other people and situations. And then you're going to, like, film it thinking that other people are going to agree with you and be super outraged just like you are.
Right.
Meanwhile, authentic people who spend time meditating and trying not to be triggered and easily offended by everything,
Hmm.
instead instead of seeing your TikTok and thinking that, wow, I feel so bad for you in that way, I just feel bad for how unconscious you are. And
Right.
the fact that you're so unconscious that it's like you're on autopilot, to
Yeah.
that degree
Yeah.
of you like, for instance, someone who could catch their autopilot, instead of being so offended, you can, oh, I'm being triggered now. Why? And
Right.
then you can internalize it, and maybe you can develop and you can grow inside by questioning this emotion that's happening inside you rather than just going with it. But these people aren't doing that. They're going with it, and then let's bring everyone else along for the ride, and I'll post it on social media, and then we'll get comments, and they'll get likes. And so this unconsciousness is
Mhm.
just getting externalized and sent out to all these other unconscious people who are feeding this egregore and allowing it to take over their minds. And
Mhm.
so what do we need? We need people to do the opposite, which is what I'm saying. Meditate. Stop being so triggered. Stop being offended. And if you are, chill.
Yeah.
You don't need to film it and film yourself crying and upload everyone else or freaking out and causing a public outrage or whatever. No, go meditate. Try to deal with yourself. Why did you just get so triggered? Why does this thing offend you so much? How
Mhm.
can you transform your life so that when something like that happens again, you can receive it in a more positive way? and
Mhm.
and that you can maybe be a vehicle to change that thing so that it's not that way in the future, maybe, rather than freaking out and thinking that externalizing it is the answer rather than internalizing it and changing ourselves. So that's always that spiritual saying where it's about, like, if you want to create real change in the world, you have to change yourself. It's like
Mhm.
people inherently know that, but are they doing that, or are they really trying super hard to change the world rather than themselves?
Right.
And us as activists, like we were talking about earlier, that's another thing that we can do rather than just trying to, you know, billboards and stickers and pamphlets and bullhorns and everything. It's like, whoa, that's all externalization. Like, that
Mhm.
is good if you're ready to do that
Mhm.
at a wavelength that other people are ready to hear.
Mhm.
But if maybe you're kind of unhinged and unbalanced and you just came to this information and you just want to shout it from the rooftops, but you're not really that good of a public speaker yet, hey,
Mhm.
maybe you'd be better off reading books for a year,
Right.
or doing meditation for a while,
Yeah.
or finding some other kind of personal development that
Yeah.
will eventually, transform you internally so that you can externally have the effect that you want, rather than
Right.
just you're the same person you always were. You came across some incredible knowledge, and now you
Right.
think you're going to be the perfect vessel for continuing it. Well, have you done the internal work yet? Maybe
Right.
you're not going to help. Maybe like they say, you can't trust a stupid person's account of what a smart person said.
Right.
If you haven't developed yourself up to the degree yet, even if you know something true and intelligent and important, it,
Yeah.
it might get funneled through you and end up being something that's not so
Yeah.
positive or influential or helpful, which a lot of people find when they try to get out there and externalize their knowledge too
Yeah.
soon. They just find out about 9/11, or they just find out
Mhm.
the Earth is flat. And they try to
Yeah.
tell everybody, and they don't
Yeah.
know all the answers and explanations. And then
Right.
somebody who has a better hold over certain straw mans and red herrings makes
Yeah.
them look bad in a social situation, and then they
Yeah.
get beat down and further unconscious and
Mhm.
triggered and offended, rather than
Mhm.
taking that space to build themselves up first.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm seeing in society at large, is
Yeah.
everyone is externalizing their problems further and further, and like getting rewarded for it, likes and loves and comments, and
Yeah.
or and not even online, but just in person. If people gossip and complain, and you, oh, you poor thing, it's like, how about telling them to man up? Oh, you can't do that anymore.
Mhm.
In this gender
Right.
neutral society, in this
Right.
offended generation, like I said,
Yeah.
stoicism is now like a bad thing. Being stoic, that's toxic masculinity. You're
Right.
holding your emotions in. No, I'm dealing with them myself
Yeah.
without externalizing them and bringing everyone else into them and
Yep.
making it like I need everyone else to help me with my own internal struggles. It's like,
Yeah.
deal with them yourself. And
Yeah.
women too.
Right.
It isn't a gender thing. Like, women can women up too and not have to gossip and tell every single person their problems so that they get a
Mhm.
little dopamine hit, and then they feel a
Yeah.
little better. Feel better about my problems now because I got a little brain high with some
Yeah.
chemicals from talking about it.
Mhm.
Well, just sit there and think about your problem, or do some action that solves the problem by yourself without involving anyone else. Because nobody wants to hear or have to deal with your problems. And I'm
Mhm.
seeing that's a lot of things. Friendship nowadays seems to be that. It's like friends are are people who don't stand in their power enough so that they can become unwitting victims of your victim narrative. How many
Mhm.
friends do you know like this? Where it's like your whole friendship is basically just you being a sounding board or an advice column or a psychologist for them because they can't internally deal with their own problems. There's like a whole sector of friends that I have had in the past that fall
Oh,
into that
tons.
into that group.
Tons.
And it's like,
Tons, man. I
are these
almost
really my
actually had to.
friends, or are these just people using me like a psychologist?
Yeah, yeah. I almost had to quit one of my jobs because of that. Like, this guy was inside of his head. He was like, just what did I do wrong? And everything became like it was a relationship issue. And I'm like, dude, we already went over this. But a lot of people, they run from that. They don't internalize it properly and dwell on it. Because ever since I've been younger, I kind of always kept a lot of any kind of things in my own, mind and learn how to do, especially if you're a musician and stuff. You end up trying to make people like you, and at the end of the day, not everybody's going to love your music, and you got to be able to handle it if somebody says, "Hey, I know you worked real hard on this, but it's trash." And it hurts your feelings a little bit, but after a while you start, hey, okay, all right, if that's your opinion of it, and it kind of makes you grow. So kind of when I was around maybe 13 or 14, that's when I started getting a lot of that. And right from like 13, 12, 13, that's when I really started handling constructive criticism and processing it properly and not getting emotional, because I used to get really upset. I was like, dude, I worked real hard on this. You don't like it? And I realized not everybody's going to like everything, and I can't make it a personal problem, because there's other people in the world other than myself, and you can't completely just shed on everybody else pretty much, when you're upset or something. It's like, you got to learn to hold it. And I know a lot of people like that, they can't do that. They just they run. They either run away from it, or like you said, project it and throw it on other people and get out, enraged by it. And I've had ex-girlfriends like that, that's done the same thing, where they just can't handle, you know inside their mind for a few minutes. It's real dangerous to them, where they're just like, I need to be around people. I need to speak with other people. I need to, and they don't have that internal monologue, going on, where they understand who they are. They just don't have it. Me, I prefer to kind of sit and resonate with things before I do anything. And I think almost because of music and having a background with music and stuff, it's kind of gave me that perspective where I might have a few songs or something that I do, and I may not even release them for a month, where I just need to sit and think and see whether or not they're actually up to my expectations personally, before I start worrying about instantly putting it out there, hoping for gratification, and then getting upset that it's not there. I wait on it, internalize it a little bit, understand it, think about it, and then I make changes to it in some cases, where, I'm not held to any idea. And yeah, that's been a big part. But I noticed that's this entire culture here in I think the whole United States in general. um I got a lot of people that I talk to in different states and stuff. Some of them moved, so I have people on the West Coast that I deal with, and they're pretty much running into the same thing. A lot of emotionally driven individuals. And I think for whatever is coming up here for the future, people are going to have to get that under control really quickly if they want
Mhm.
to, I think a lot of people got lucky, and I'm not saying that in a good sense.
A lot of
They
people
got
have
lucky that
first
they're
world.
still,
I think a lot
huh?
of people have first world problems, and
Yeah,
coming soon to your doorstep are third world problems. And
yeah,
if your first world problems are triggering you and tripping you out,
right,
just wait until these real problems come to your doorstep. That's it.
right. No,
And yeah, they're gonna learn real fast if they don't beforehand.
yeah, no internet. Imagine that. No,
No
no internet,
electricity.
no electricity. They're done. They're
Yeah.
done. I don't even want to be in this whole country if something like that goes down. But that is I've noticed that starvation and isolation is one of these controllers' main, probably biggest killing tool that they probably like the most as well. Because any amount of suffering that they can put on to people, I feel that's what they're in it for, is for the suffering. Because there's a lot of ways to do things, whether it's war, but that's not really the biggest thing. The biggest thing they love is famine and starvation and that type of stuff, and brutalizing, and a lot of people here in America, I don't think that they're really ready for that kind of stuff because they got too many pockets of resistance and left wing, right wing, this, that, and I'm like, none of that's gonna matter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It might matter a little bit at
Food,
first, but
yeah, food and water
yeah,
when it comes down to it, for sure. Because the all the biggest genocides in history don't come from bullets; they
no,
come from lack of food and water.
yep,
And so when you want to talk about preparation or things that we can do, farming your own food and
yeah,
digging your own wells or having your
yep,
own ponds,
yep,
huge. And that, of course, means having your own land as well.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
we need land and we need to work the land. That
yeah,
is the biggest thing that most people can do in their daily lives,
yeah,
because it has nothing to do with the political or the conspiracies or anything. And
right,
it's just you setting up a good life for yourself, which everybody
yeah,
should be doing. And we
yeah,
can, as long as we recognize that a good life means owning your own land, your own house, growing your own food, and having your own water, and ideally your own electricity too. So we're talking solar or other means of electricity, so that in no way are you,
mhm,
it's called off grid, no way are you responsible for being
mhm,
on the government grid, and you can survive food, water, shelter, uh,
mhm,
there on your own land.
yep,
How many people could survive like that right now? I'm dead, you know?
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
even have the first prerequisite, but
yeah,
I'm working towards it. But I mean,
yeah.
it's difficult in the modern
Oh no,
economy to be able to afford even subsistence living. As a 40-year-old man, I still haven't been able to accrue enough wealth to buy my own land, house, and start, a farm. And I'm working on it. That's what will hopefully get towards. And ideally, everyone else that's looking for solutions is either already doing that or working towards that.
mhm,
Um, so that's one thing we can do for sure, rather
yeah,
than renting from high-rise apartments in big cities. We don't want to live vertically up
right,
in places that we're being smushed into. We
yep,
want to spread out and live on the earth, grounded, and again, not renting. We want to own that land, and we want to believe in that ownership, in the sense that even if they're taxing it, and at least it's you bought it, rather than renting it, and then some other
mhm,
person or entity can come in. And when the
yeah,
entity does come in and they say, we have eminent domain over your land, well, stand in your belief that it's your land and not theirs. And if we all did that, then this entity called government that keeps trying to usurp our lands will be
mhm,
unable to. The
yeah,
problem is, again, this need for us to have unity in our decentralization. It's like we
yeah,
all have to be one in our standing apart together, and it's so
yeah,
difficult. And I think you hit the nail on the head, that it's the media that's doing this, and it's the
yeah,
media that could take it back. Because as I said, the problem is having one group or one centralized thing that we all fall under, and that's our unity. No, we don't want that. What we want is a unity of ideas, or a unity of acknowledgement of truth. But that can't happen until we actually have a mainstream media worldwide that's feeding enough truth that we can get on that base level. Now the mainstream media is dividing everybody so that we don't have any common ground whatsoever to have like first principles that everybody can agree on that we can stand with.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think things like voluntarism are trying to do, because they have really simple first principles like respect for property rights and voluntary interactions only with other people and the government, which is morally just, versus statism, what we have now, where you are compulsorily forced into your many, many, many interactions with the government. And if you try to maintain your freedom, you'll find out just how much freedom you actually have, because they have a monopoly of force and violence and law system and cages to put you in, and ways to take your earnings away from you, or close your bank account, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right on that. That's kind of what I've been doing. I've been trying to just own as much as I can, because the rent really, I started looking into it even deeper, and I found that you're really paying the same amount as if you own it to rent it. At the end of the day, it's not cheaper at all. And I've actually paid less for my own house than I have actually when I was living in an apartment and stuff. But that is, like you said, what they're trying to do. They're trying to put you in these vertical stations where, and the rent is through the roof. Even with everything going up in price the way it is now, everything is like balanced. I'm looking at the minimum wage, and as it goes up higher here in America, 17 $18 an hour, if you want a one bedroom just on that type of salary, say you're full time and you're $18 an hour, a one bedroom around in my area, and my area is lower because I'm not in the city, but it's actually close to almost $2,000 a month. And I'm like, dude, I guess you'll be drinking water for the whole month, because you're not going to be able to afford any food or anything else. That's if you're working a full-time job, with which is double the minimum wage from when I had graduated. And I was in college and stuff. It was double back then. It was like $7, and everything was like 12, 1300. Then as you went up to $17 now, you're like 2000 minimum for a one bedroom. I'm like, you're never going to own that, and it's just as much or more than but my issue was when a lot of that stuff was happening. That's when I really stepped up my game with uh just preparing for not having to deal with any government type of entity at all. I'm not going to stand in their bread lines. I'm not going to do what they tell me to do, to go into their stores and buy their stuff. Any store that had me wearing masks, I'm like, I'm not going in there. It's not happening. So I changed my diet up. I don't do any, I try not to have any kind of toxins if possible, from all this fast food. I won't even go near a fast food restaurant. That's not even. And drinking tons of water. I take black seed oil and other things, and just lowering the inflammation. I haven't had any kind of detox at all, and I haven't felt the need to. The most I've had in the last 6 years has been a moderately sore throat for 2 or 3 days, and then pretty much if if I'm drinking enough water, it goes away. You know what I mean? And other people, I'm counting during the whole shutdown, and they're all coughing and hacking and just sick. And I'm like, you guys, it's your body telling you that it's trying to expel toxins. It's like if you just stop eating. You know what I mean? That's the first thing. Stop eating for a while and fast, and get rid of some of the toxins in your body. You'll be healthier. And there was one guy that I sat next to. He really got me doing a lot of fasting with him, where he just didn't. It was intermittent fasting, so it wasn't exactly like what you do.
I do
I haven't
both.
done
Yeah.
a.
I do
Do
intermittent
you do
fasting
both?
as well as long term. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we were waiting until a certain time. We would stop eating anything after like 6, and we wouldn't eat anything until lunch the next day. And we would drink tons and tons of water. and with had a lot of like vegetables and stuff. He ate like avocado every day, and you know he was like 50, 51, looked like he was in his 30s, you know what I mean? Just excellent shape, and like just he wasn't sick the whole time he was working with me and stuff, and he would pretty much anytime we had one guy in our work that was just hilarious, like just scared of everything. It was mass hysteria, and every time he got close to that guy, he would grab his mask and lift it up on his face and turn like this away from him, and he was doing that to make the guy uncomfortable because the guy was so, oh, you need to put on your mask. You need to stand 6 feet. So every time he got too close to him, he would go, oh, let me let me move, back some, cover up his face and stuff. So we'd have a laugh, on the inside joke of it. But yeah, I've been watching like a lot of your stuff on, as far as like changing your diet and just getting rid of all the toxins from meat and actually like fasting and stuff. So I haven't done the full fast. I do want to. I've been trying to do a little bit of gaining, but it's hard for me to gain because I don't eat a lot, like tons of I don't eat, a lot of stuff with no, I'm not going to say protein. I do eat a decent amount of protein, but not necessarily from meat, you know what I mean? So I don't really gain much anymore. And I was taking this medication for a long period of time and it was kind of messing with my mood, and I still feel it now, even today where I was on it for like a year and it felt like it permanently altered my body's chemistry a little bit.
Mm.
So one day I was like, I'm not taking this medicine anymore. I'm like, I'm
Mm.
done. And I called my doctor. I was like, I'm done with this medicine. He's like, all right, well, you might want to slow down on it and take less dosage. I was like, no, no, I'm done. I'm throwing it away.
Mm.
I'm not taking less. I'm not tapering. I'm done. So I ended up just pretty much just letting it go completely. I was sick for like maybe 3 or 4 days with some kind of weird withdrawal from it, and
Mm.
I drink tons of water and stuff, and like I said, anything I do mentally, I can do it. If I
Mm.
decide I don't want to do something, I just quit. Like I used to smoke cigarettes for a short period of time, and
Mm.
instantly I would just throw it away because there wasn't an addiction over my mind. I had more
Right.
control over myself. So if I just wanted to smoke, I would smoke. If I didn't, I would just toss it,
Yep.
and never crave it ever again. So I did vape for a short period, but right around 2019 when they started shutting everything down and people, going to the hospital and stuff, I was like, I'm going to keep my lungs as clear as I possibly can. So I
Yep.
just threw all that away, and I haven't smoked anything since maybe July of 2019. And
Mm.
that was like vape a little bit, on top of that, it wasn't even cigarettes or anything, but all of it's equally as bad. If you ask me, it's rough on your lungs, but I've only probably collectively smoked for a couple years. And but so moderately, I've kept myself as healthy as possible. But I think that was more peer pressure from other
Mhm.
people smoking constantly. And it's like, oh yeah, give me a pack of cigarettes. But I don't do any of that anymore. I'm like, dude, all you have on this earth is your health, and as long as you're in good health, you still have some power over what happens to you. But once you get sick, you're now in the care of other people, and you're at their mercy. And
And
seeing 2020,
it's the
I don't,
yeah, it's the foundation of happiness too. Like if
yeah,
you're sick, it's almost impossible to be happy.
yeah,
Depending how sick you are and how long term the or chronic it is, it can
yeah,
really take down your quality of life to the point that a lot of people, want to end themselves based on
yeah,
that level of
yeah,
suffering. So
yeah,
to try to alleviate that kind of suffering before it even happens, we can be proactive about looking after our health. I
right,
smoked cigarettes for years as well, and then I started doing daily pranayama, deep breathing practice, and then I was smoking cigarettes after. And within a few days or weeks of truly getting serious about I'm going to do this for life, I'm going to be a yogi, and I'm going to do pranayama practice every day, and it just I quit smoking instantly after that. Like
mhm, yeah,
in other words, I did it for a few days. I
mhm,
recognized that this is ridiculous. I'm sitting
right,
there in a lotus pose, doing deep breathing exercises, tripping out. I was doing for an hour, hour and a half. It was, wonderful feelings. You're basically tripping out over your own body's chemicals from getting full oxygenation.
yeah,
And then at night, I'd smoke a cigarette like I was used to doing, and I was like, what am I doing? And then the next day, I could feel it. And the more cigarettes I smoked, the more I could feel it in the pranayama practice. And I was like, well, this is dumb. I'm like, it's like trying to bandage up one arm while stabbing myself in the other arm.
Yeah.
And so just that basically people that say that like it's difficult to quit cigarettes, they just haven't gotten to the point where they truly want to quit is what it
Mm.
is. And for
Yeah.
me, during that time when because I truly wanted to be more healthy and I truly wanted to go far with yoga as a discipline
Mm-hmm.
and deep breathing and everything, and it feels great when you can truly fully expand your lungs when you've done deep breathing practice to the point that I have, like I have an expanded rib cage even, and you're getting real energy versus like this the
Yeah.
tobacco. It is like it's like an energy that you get that it's it's not like oxygen, you know, the
No.
what all the crap that's in there. It might
Right.
help you feel good when you're stressed for a few minutes, but as a regular activity, um, you'd be much better off learning to do deep breathing every time you're stressed, and you're gonna feel way better than the cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
The cigarette is like a facsimile of deep breathing that actually has the exact opposite effect, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
people that are stressed and they smoke a cigarette or they go out and they complain in their smoking circles with their smoking buddies. What you really want
Mm-hmm.
is that, but instead you're doing this mouth breathing,
Right.
chemicals and smoke. Maybe you're letting it out through your nose. So you did the exact opposite of what you should be doing, which is
Right.
nose breathing oxygen and then letting that out through your mouth. um, and I was also going to say with the fasting, you mentioned that you haven't long-term fasted yet, but you
Mm-hmm.
have done intermittent fasting. I would recommend that. If you go from never fasting before and then you try to do 7 days, 14, 21,
Yeah.
whatever, it's a real shock to the system. It's
Yeah.
difficult. It's there's a spiritual aspect to it as well, and just jumping yourself headlong into a super long fast when you haven't even tried a short one yet, um, you might throw both chemically and mentally some things off kilter and physically, because your body's not used to going into that starvation mode and whatnot, especially if you've never done intermittent fasting. So it is a healing modality, but it's also a shock to the system. And so if you're not used to that healing modality, then
Mm-hmm.
taking it to the nth degree, like a lot of people do when they first come upon it and they see some YouTube video or something, and they're like, "Oh, I want to do that 28-day water fast. Let's go." It's like they're going from a standard American diet to a 28-day water fast. It's like, whoa, chill.
Yeah.
Your body. You don't need to just like like go
Right.
crazy. Like, let's start by removing McDonald's. You know, next week
Right.
we'll remove coffee. Next week we'll try to cut down on beef and chicken, and then and slowly. It's similar to like really obese people going to the gym and like putting undue stress on their knees and running laps and stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
hold on.
Yeah.
80% of weight loss is what you're putting in your mouth. Don't
Right.
worry about that extra 20% when you're completely obese, thinking that causing irreparable knee damage from running is what you need right now. What you need is a vegan diet. You need to cut your calories. There's a bunch of other things that obese people need to do rather than hitting the gym or doing laps and stuff. But they'll, again, they don't know these things. And so they do the traditionally recommended thing, which is, oh, I got to get myself to the gym. Or I got to eat a keto diet, because they always promote the opposite of what we really need. So they promote high fat, low carb diets. They call it
Mm-hmm.
Atkins, they call it keto, paleo, primal. They give it new names. They update the thing regularly. Low carb, they just call it low carb. But what is a low carb diet but a high fat diet? If things that are low in carbs are high in fat. So, but the optimal food for humans is fruit, and
Yeah.
almost all fruits are high carb, and we are high carb beings.
Mm-hmm.
And the propaganda is trying to get us to think that we want to have a high fat diet.
Mm-hmm.
And even in vegan land, like they're starting to promote keto vegan. Like that's the healthy option. And so, I've experimented on this for a long time, and I've researched the subject for a long time. And
Yeah.
people who don't know me from this subject, they think that like Eric knows everything about all these other subjects, but when it comes to health, oh, Eric doesn't do his research and he doesn't know anything. It's like, hey guys, I figured out all that other stuff, and you think the only thing I'm wrong about is how I eat. Like, okay, well,
Right.
talk to me when I'm 50, when I'm 60, when
Right.
I'm 70. I think
Uh-huh.
over time people are slowly coming around to the fact that maybe Eric does know a few things about health, because
Yeah.
he seems to be looking good, he seems to be doing
Yeah.
fine, and he's doing the exact opposite of what all the other gurus are saying. That I should be
Right.
eating high fat, and I should be doing a carnivore diet. I should be
Yeah.
eating exclusively meat, and dairy
Yeah.
is good for you, Eric. And why would you eat like a rabbit, not plant? It's like there's 70,000 edible plant foods on Earth, yet
Yeah.
most people stick to the same 4 or 5 animals, and they think that's the level of variety that the human body
Yeah.
requires. The human body, all nutrients comes from plants, including the
Mm-hmm.
ones that we get secondhand from the animals. And people
Right.
think that them getting animal protein or this and that nutrient from animals needs
Mm-hmm.
to happen that way. They either get it from plants and we can get it directly from plants themselves, or
Mm-hmm.
B, we can create it ourselves and we don't need to eat it exogenously to create it, especially
Yeah.
if we're running at an optimal if our system's running optimally, which is another thing I find is I'm highly sensitive to bad food, bad environments. If I just eat something that has a little bit too much oil, I'll throw up.
Yeah.
The average person eats way more oil than
Right.
than I do,
Yeah.
but they might see that reaction that, oh, is Eric getting sick? No, I didn't get sick. My body is so sensitive. I
Mm-hmm.
just I allowed myself to eat something that is of a lower par than I would usually eat. This just happened
Mm-hmm.
last week. I ate some Indian curry, and it clearly had way too much
Uh-huh.
oil in it. And I
Yeah.
woke up 2 in the morning and I just threw up the curry.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was clear that all this it was potatoes and cauliflower. Like, I'm not throwing up potatoes and cauliflower. I'm throwing up the clearly there was a shitload of oil in it, and I noticed it,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have my girlfriend remove the oil before reheating it, and so it just soaked all into the potatoes, and I just ate the whole thing, and also went to bed shortly after it, which is another no-no. You should be awake for several hours
Right.
rather than laying horizontally and letting that oil just be undigestible in my system. So it woke me up a
Yeah.
couple hours later to throw it up, and then I felt fine, went back to sleep. I
Mm-hmm.
don't consider that me being sick. I didn't get sick. My body is
Mm-hmm.
of such a high level
Yeah.
that it forced the negative intruder out so that
Yeah.
my body doesn't have to go down to a lower level, which is what would happen with the normal person who already eats that much oil all the time and crap all the
Yep.
time anyway. Their body is able to process it, and they
Yep.
might think that that's what health means. They also, people that eat meat a lot, for instance, their body's full of parasites. All meat eaters
Right.
are full of parasites, and you need to be able to fully digest the meat that you eat, because
Yep.
our bodies don't do it.
Right.
They need the parasites to do it. And even more gross is a large percentage of your excrement isn't even yours. It's the excrement of parasites that are
Right.
living rent free in your bowels, and they help you digest your food. And you actually
Mm-hmm.
need them if you have that diet. And
Yep.
if you slowly start getting rid of that diet, the parasites will leave because they don't feed on the bitter vegetables, for example.
Right.
If you do a water fast and then you cleanse with certain detox elements, the parasites need to find a new home. They'll be starved out of you, and then you
Yeah.
don't put new ones in because you're no longer eating the things that they thrive on or the things that they grow in. Um, so, absolutely, people. Oh, so fasting. My recommendation was to maybe start with a 1 day. Have you ever gone a day without eating?
Yeah, I have. I have. Yeah, full day. Yeah.
Intentionally? Was it intentional?
Yeah.
It was. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
This is
Mhm.
different if it wasn't intentional. Um,
Mhm.
it's like there's a real mental component to fasting, like I said, like a spiritual thing. You have all this extra time, and because you're not thinking about food, you're not making food, you're not eating food, you're not digesting food, and
Right.
then you don't have extra sleep because you're tired from the food, which you'll find when you fast for a long time, you'll sleep less. You'll have more energy. It'll go up and down because you don't have that food spike of energy that you're used to, but
Hmm.
you'll still have an incredible amount of energy every single day. And after a few days, you'll stop being hungry and you'll be like, what is this? And so you'll have this really fresh kind of energy that's clearly not coming from food anymore. And
Hmm.
it's coming straight from you and either your, you know, fat stores and the air and, things like that, uh, versus your standard American diet. And
Hmm.
once you do fast, you have to be careful about reintroducing. Like if you fast, the longer you fast, and then you reintroduce food as a hamburger or a whole large pizza, you can die.
Yeah.
It's all your internal organs, they shrink, and all the digestive organs, just like everyone knows your stomach shrinks when you don't eat for a while. It's the same with literally all of your digestive organs. They de-emphasize themselves and they shrink and they go into a cleansing mode actually, which is good for them. They can't do it if they're constantly having stuff being pumped through them all the time. But then they have like this automatic default mode where when you stop eating, and they don't have to digest and create new bile and juices and everything to do what they usually do. They do other processes, and so they go into like your liver and your gall. I don't know the whole uh, technical terms for everything, but as a easy way to think of it, basically they have like a flush system that happens that they can't do if they're always working, just like any machine. If you're constantly using the machine, you can't clean it. You can't flush the system out because you're using it. And so our bodies are no different. And the way that we can trigger the flush mechanism is to stop using them, stop using our bodies. And the thing we use them the most for is this. We're constantly putting
Right.
shit in there all the time.
Uh-huh.
So you stop that for a while, and then on top of that, like I said, you can cleanse with water. So dry fasting is dangerous, which is when you stop um, putting anything in your body, including water,
Right.
and you can die from that pretty quickly. And again, like I said, you don't want to shock your system. You want to slowly adapt your system to needing less food and getting better energy from better places. So you'll have better food, and you do your pranayama and yoga practice, and you do a little exercise, and so that you work your way into a higher vibration of energy, and you're needing less food, and you're still maintaining the same weight as well. This is another thing, but you have to ease yourself into that. If you just try to go 100% high raw, high carb, vegan overnight after a long term fast from eating 30 years of a standard diet, American
Yeah.
diet or something, like that's not recommended. I don't
Right.
recommend anyone try to do the cold turkey vegan or
Yeah.
fasting method. I think both things, but fasting and healthy eating, should be eased into. You don't
Yeah.
want to shock your system with all these healthy habits. If your
Right.
system is really used to a bunch of, you know, inherent, objectively unhealthy things,
Yeah.
shocking it with objectively healthy things, um, it's better than continuing on with your unhealthy habits. But it's in some ways it's unsustainable because a lot of people have cravings or they start to fall back, or literal chemical cravings. So like maybe your will, you think I can do this. I really want to. But internally, you have like chemical stuff dependencies going on that you don't know about that are, for instance, to certain foods have chemicals in them that are similar to heroin and other drugs. And people don't realize that these are in foods that they've been eating every single day. And then when they stop eating them, you're going to go through the same kind of withdrawal symptoms that a drug user goes through. And
Yeah.
that iron will that you think you have or that you had at the beginning is going to start to corrode under the weight of all of this, mental and
Yeah.
emotional stuff that's going to come up when you start fasting and having all
Yeah.
this free time to do nothing but think about how hungry you are and and stuff like that. Um, so easing into it is a good idea. Yeah, if you've done a day fast, next you can do 2 days or 3 days and go into that way, rather than jumping all in. Or in the same with vegan, like if people have been eating meat every single day for their whole life, and then they try to stop eating it instantly, you're gonna have cravings, and you're gonna have social situations and all these things that you didn't think of ahead of time, that you thought it would be easy to just cut it out. And you'll, in the long term, coming from someone who's done both basically, because I've tried to, you know, say jump ahead of my health journey and then
Hmm.
go back a couple steps and then realize like, oh, I miscalculated my ability to maintain that level. I look at it like a mountain health,
Hmm.
and like I know what the peak is. The peak is basically you eat nothing but fruit, because it's and a little bit of vegetables,
Hmm.
all raw. There's no reason to cook anything. There's no reason to eat grains. There's no reason to eat animals. There's no reason to eat dairy. So all these things are subpar foods.
Hmm.
The optimal foods for humans are raw fruits and vegetables, nuts and
Hmm.
seeds, sprouts. That's it.
Hmm.
And I know that, and I've lived that way for periods of time, and
Hmm.
boy, do I have a lot of energy, and it
Hmm.
almost is too much energy. One, it gets boring as far as taste is concerned because there's not much variety.
Hmm.
Three, it doesn't digest quite as easily as cooked food. Four, the energy is quicker expelled than cooked food, which you can you can eat one meal of cooked food and it'll last longer than a meal of fruit.
Right.
Um, so there's reasons why, say, living at the top of the health mountain isn't, for me, for instance. I stay near the summit, knowing what the peak is, never letting myself fall down too far.
Right.
Because I haven't eaten a bit of meat in 15 years. I'll never go back on certain things, but certain things, like maybe 4 years ago, I had a drink of alcohol at a party or something, but that was 4 years ago. Like, so I have my own way of being where I don't like black and white,
Right.
like telling myself that I'll never do this thing again. Like even meat, I think if I was in an emergency situation where there's literally no food whatsoever and I'm starving, or if I was put long term in a prison and they wouldn't give me adequate vegetarian food, I think maybe in those circumstances I might, eat meat. I'd have to be put in the circumstance and then decide from there. But my point is that I don't like setting up black and white things for myself like that and then
Mm.
acting like I can never have a gray area again. I think
Yeah.
people are better suited knowing what's white, what's black, seeing themselves as a certain shade of gray in the middle, and trying to stay towards the top of that mountain, whatever it be, whether it's health or anything else. But
Hmm.
a lot of people try so hard to get to 100% of whatever. You got to be the best there is, or it's not worth doing at all. Or I got to do it
Hmm.
100%, or I'm not going to do it at all. It's like,
Yeah.
oh man, 99, 98, 95% is excellent. That's still an A.
Yeah.
You don't need
Yeah.
an A plus.
Yeah. Because you can kind of set yourself up to fall sometimes without the gray area,
Yeah, and you'll
and
fall back to black rather than
yeah,
falling a couple shades of gray.
yeah,
You fall
yeah,
right back to the
all the way
bottom of the
back.
pyramid. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did. I was working, I was moving slowly with it, and but yeah, and also the people around you too, because I was eating a lot of like raw vegetables. I still do, and I actually like the taste of it in general. And a lot of people, some of my family and stuff, they hate it. So whenever I'm actually cooking for them, I like the raw vegetables, and they're just like this needs to be cooked, boiled, baked, sautéed, sauce. I'm like, no, man, I can't eat that with that because I actually do get sick now myself. So if I actually go to a fast food restaurant or something, I will actually get sick if I eat that. So I can no longer eat that because I started cutting a lot, almost like 98%, I would put it, of any kind of oil out of my diet. And I just looked and noticed everything has oil in it. Everything. It's like, it's an inflammatory, it's horrible. And every chip has it in it, everything in plastic has it in it. You can't find anything that doesn't have canola or all this other, man-made created oil, and
Mhm.
high temperature back to low temperature back to high temperature crap. and I actually can't eat it. I thought I had to actually go to the hospital years ago because I ended up going out with a guy, and he ended up like buying me some dinner, one of my old friends, and I ate it, and it I don't know. My heart started beating real fast. I started getting really, really sick, and I almost had like it was like a panic attack thing where I was really like sick, nauseous, dizzy. I couldn't walk or anything, and you know, so I got really sick. He was like, "Man, do I need to call the ambulance to come pick you up right now?" I'm like, "Dude,
Mm.
I'm really sick. I'm not eating this crap anymore." And that's just from switching your diet slowly over the years that your body's not used to, because there's a lot of, like you said, a lot of toxins. There's like a pharmacy in the water supply, in the food, and you do get, withdrawal symptoms and get sick from it, because you're not noticing what's going on. But that's really what's really happening to a lot of people. I think the ADHD and all that stuff. So I did watch a lot of your videos on some of that. It seems like a really heated topic. I don't know why people are so upset.
Unnecessarily so, right? It's like
Yeah,
people get
yeah,
so heated over what you put in your mouth.
they are. They're so angry. It's like when you tell them, you're like, no, 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 just like fruits, vegetable. They're like, oh, what the hell did he say? Did he say? I
That's
know he
not
didn't say that.
healthy.
I liked him up until then.
I
I
heard raw
think
animal bits is what's healthy nowadays. Like
right.
everyone used to know that fruits and vegetables were healthy, and then when someone comes along and says, "Hey, if you just eat fruits and vegetables, you're even healthier," and they're like, "What? That's
Yeah.
absurd."
Yeah, I seen people because I didn't know. And, you're like all over the place, so I kind of see you in some real obscure areas sometimes across the networks I'm at, and some people are just like, "Yeah, I'm done. I'm done eating vegetables and stuff, and I'm going back to meat." You coming in there? It's like, "Hey, dude, I got a whole bunch of doctors that show a whole bunch of studies from this, that." You show your links to everything. You're just like, "Look,
Aren't you the flat Earth guy?
right, right." All of a sudden, there's like, "Oh, he used to be cool. I don't, no, no, no. He's messing with my food now. He
Yeah.
messed with my earth, and now I'm not gonna tolerate him messing with my food. We got to do something about that." But yeah,
Stay
it
in
is
your
a
lane. Stay in your lane, Eric.
right, 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 right. The road is our lane, as far as I'm concerned.
I was
Anywhere
I was
off
vegan
road is
before I
our
was a
lane.
flat earther.
Uh huh.
I was a vegan long before I was a flat earther. Most of them
Right.
they don't know that.
Right, right. No, your knowledge in it is extensive, and I got to be honest. I was having a lot of you offered me two different things. One personally, but you actually helped me with my sinuses. But I had a little issue with acid reflux and a lot of things, and it's because it's too acidic. Everything was just too acidic, and my diet it wasn't horrible. So like I've always been my size now ever since, forever. So I've never ever been over or anything like that. I have been under one time from medication, but I was watching a few of your videos, and when I switched up my food that I'm eating and everything, my diet, and I started eating more vegetables, more a lot more water. I wasn't acidic anymore, and I didn't have all. I mean, it was almost overnight. I thought something was wrong with me when it first happened. I was like, "Dude, isn't this where I'm supposed to take some nasty antacids or something and fix this?" And it just went away.
Yeah,
And I looked at the
it's the same
medicine
for
that
me.
this stupid doctor gave me, and it said, it's this antacid thing, and it said one of the side effects is stomach cancer.
Hmm.
I'm like, no, no, no. So I instantly stopped taking that crap after I had read that. I'm like, this is stupid because it was messing with me. My heart was kind of, and I was like, can't take this medication. So I'm really sensitive to medicine also. So I don't take any medicine. And the other thing you had helped me with, I think you had seen one of my streams. So I want to thank you for that too, for the breathing exercises
That's right.
that
I
you
remember
helped me
that.
with,
Yeah.
because that's, I don't know why it started happening to me. I don't think I was in the best living situations, and my sinuses were inflamed and they wouldn't go away. So I went to 10 different specialists, and none of them could. Some of them gave me the same thing. One of them actually asked me, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, dude, I didn't pay you $300 for you to ask me. I'm like, you're the doctor, not even doctor, you're a specialist. And so I got mad with him really quick because he was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help you. I'm like, why is this inflamed and why won't it go away? So I started actually doing some more like neti pot type of things, and just flushing my sinuses out, and then doing some of your breathing exercises every day. And I'm not having, like, it was so bad that I couldn't sleep. I mean, it was, pretty much a post nasal drip 24/7. So, I was slowly losing my sanity altogether. I mean, people ask me to go do things. I'm like, no, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to see anything. I don't care about what you got going on. It's your birthday. Good job. Get out of my face. And because it works on your attitude. Like you said, it's part of being happiness. Finding the true happiness of life and being healthy it's hand in hand with being content and feeling good. And when you feel bad every day, you don't really feel like doing anything. And that was me for years. I was like, and it hit an all-time low, to the point where I was having trouble with relationships and everything. And I was like, and I'm kind of recovering from all of that, and with doing some of your exercises and stuff. So that's actually helped me out a lot. Normally if I was on like a meeting with you right now and I didn't do any of that, you'd have to see me get up and go outside and start spitting out a whole bunch of mucus and everything. Just every 2 seconds it wouldn't turn off. And if I took Claritin or any kind of over-the-counter nonsense, it would get worse, and it would actually make it run faster all from everywhere. And I'm like, there's no cure for it. And just doing that, every day, and different breathing exercises and stuff. And I looked over a few of your informational videos on that stuff, and it helps. It helped me with stress altogether, because I was, like I said, doing what I was doing. I was kind of really burning at both ends. So it really helped me out a lot, man.
All right, guys. Also, we that. Uh, all right, guys. Have a great evening. I will see you Saturday morning, same time. Till then, take care. Much appreciated, guys, for coming in tonight. Anyway, thank you.